I'm an orphan and the only path in front of me is to pick up a blade fight my way to the top. Kai awoke early as usual, staring up at the familiar cracks on his tiny room's ceiling. The orphanage was old, creaky and cold, but it had always been his home. He swung his legs off the bed, sighing as his bare feet touched the icy wooden floor. Today felt different, though he couldn't place why. Outside, the city of Azure Ridge was already waking. The blue planet, his world, was filled with martial artists, warriors who protected humanity from monsters appearing from other dimensions. Strength meant everything here: status, wealth, and even survival. For Kai, strength was only a distant dream. He stood before a cracked mirror, staring at his reflection. Short, disheveled black hair, tired eyes from late-night study sessions, and a body thin from years of meager meals. He looked weak, ordinary, forgettable. But behind those weary eyes burned an intense desire to rise above his fate. To become strong enough to attend the prestigious Azure Martial University, the gateway to a better life. With determination flickering in his chest, Kai dressed quickly, slipping into worn-out clothes before rushing downstairs. The common area was noisy, filled with children chattering excitedly about their day ahead. Mrs. Lon, the orphanage caretaker, greeted him warmly. "Good morning, Kai," she said kindly, handing him a small bun. "Eat something. You look pale." "Thank you," Kai replied gratefully, biting into the stale bread. He didn't mind the taste. Food was fuel, nothing more. Outside, the autumn air was crisp, carrying hints of fallen leaves and morning dew. Kai walked quietly toward school, reviewing martial theory in his head. Suddenly, an odd feeling swept over him, a faint hum deep within his mind. System initializing. Martial Ascension system successfully bound to host. Kai stopped abruptly, looking around. "Who's there?" The voice repeated, calm yet mechanical, echoing clearly in his mind. "Congratulations, host Kai. You have awakened the Martial Ascension system. You will now have access to clear status panels, missions, and attribute growth." Heart racing, Kai whispered, barely audible, "Status panel?" Instantly, a translucent window appeared before his eyes, glowing softly in the morning sunlight. Kai, Martial Ascension System. Level, 1, Stage 1 of 9. Experience, 0 out of 100. Strength, 5. Health, 5. Spirituality, 4. Energy, 3. Agility, 5. Free attribute points, 0. Techniques, none. Martial rank, none. Kai's mouth fell open in disbelief. Systems were myths, whispered in legends, gifted to heroes and geniuses, not ordinary orphan boys. Yet the evidence floated clearly before him. "Is this real?" he asked hesitantly. "Affirmative," the system responded. "You may now quantify your growth and gain experience by defeating monsters and completing missions." Excitement surged through Kai, his pulse quickening. Finally, a chance had appeared to change his fate. Yet doubt lingered. Why him, a nobody? Shaking off uncertainty, he continued walking, determination firm in each step. At school, Kai entered quietly, taking his usual seat at the back of Master Lin's class. His peers barely acknowledged him, except for Yun Fei, who sneered openly. The proud heir of the Yun martial family had always looked down upon Kai, dismissing him as insignificant. Master Lin began the day's lesson calmly. "Today's topic is fundamental battle techniques. Observe carefully as your skills determine your future." Yun Fei scoffed, whispering loudly, "Some people have no future." The class laughed quietly, casting mocking glances toward Kai, who ignored them, focusing intensely on Master Lin's demonstration. Movements were fluid, precise, executed flawlessly. Kai watched every detail carefully, committing them to memory. After class, Master Lin approached Kai privately. "Don't let them discourage you," he encouraged quietly. "Talent matters, but determination can overcome even the greatest disadvantage." Kai bowed respectfully, gratitude shining in his eyes. "Thank you, Master Lin." As evening approached, Kai rushed to the Monster Hunters Guild. It was his first time there, and his heart pounded nervously. May, the receptionist, glanced curiously at the hesitant boy. "Hello. Can I help you?" "What's the easiest hunting mission available?" Kai asked cautiously. She handed him a quest scroll. "Graytail rats at the city's outskirts. Weak alone, dangerous in groups. Reward, 50 coins. "I'll take it," Kai declared without hesitation. Armed with a rusty sword borrowed from the guild's armory, Kai ventured toward the outskirts, gripping the weapon tightly. Soon the tall grass rustled ominously. Bright red eyes stared at him, graytail rats, small yet vicious. Here goes nothing, Kai muttered. One rat lunged swiftly. Kai dodged awkwardly, swinging his blade in a shaky arc. The strike grazed its side, earning a shriek. Another rat attacked from behind, teeth narrowly missing his leg. Heart racing, Kai pivoted and struck harder. This time the sword bit deep, killing the beast. Experience +10, the system announced calmly. Emboldened, Kai faced the others, heart pounding with adrenaline. Each swing improved, gaining confidence and control. Soon, 3 graytail rats lay defeated at his feet. Quest complete. Reward, 50 coins, 30 experience. The system chimed cheerfully. Kai opened his status window immediately. Level 1. Experience, 60 out of 100. Coins 50. Breathing heavily, Kai smiled genuinely. His first victory felt exhilarating. At last he held concrete proof of progress. Returning to the guild, Mei looked impressed. Nicely done, she praised. You're stronger than you look. He accepted the coins gratefully, pride swelling in his chest. For the first time he saw his path clearly. Back at the orphanage, under the dim glow of moonlight, Kai reviewed his status. Though his body ached and exhaustion weighed heavily, his spirit felt reborn. The system had given him a lifeline. I'll train relentlessly, he vowed, clenching his fist. I'll climb to the peak of martial arts and never stop. That night, Kai drifted to sleep peacefully, heart filled with newfound hope. His ordinary life was about to become extraordinary. Tomorrow would mark the true beginning of his ascension on the blue planet. Kai rose early, driven by excitement from yesterday's victory. The martial ascension system had given him hope and the tools to fulfill his dream, yet the path ahead would require relentless dedication. After quickly washing up, he checked his status panel again, still fascinated by its glowing figures. Level 1. Experience, 60 out of 100. Strength, 5. Health, 5. Spirituality, 4. Energy, 3. Agility, 5. Free attribute points, 0. Coins 50. Techniques, none. Martial rank, none. He sighed. 50 coins wouldn't buy much in Azure Ridge, but every small step forward counted. Grabbing his bag, Kai slipped silently through the orphanage doors. It was still dark outside, with the faintest hint of sunrise painting the horizon. Reaching school early, he found Master Lin already practicing martial arts in the courtyard, his movements precise, controlled, graceful like flowing water. Kai watched in awe, imprinting every subtle detail in his memory. Come join me, Kai, Master Lin invited without looking back. Kai jumped, startled by his teacher's awareness, but hurriedly stepped forward. Follow my moves exactly, Master Lin instructed softly. Focus only on breathing and movement synchronization. Kai mimicked his master closely, muscles trembling from the unfamiliar strain. Every motion revealed gaps in his own understanding, but he persisted, sweat dripping from his forehead. He pushed aside discomfort, driven by a burning desire to improve. An hour later, Master Lin stopped, calmly nodding. Not bad for a beginner. Train like this daily. Strength accumulates over time. Kai bowed gratefully. Thank you, Master Lin. In class, Yunfei glared at Kai, eyes narrowed with irritation. He'd heard about Kai's successful mission and disliked losing the class's attention. He smirked maliciously. Beginner's luck means nothing, Yunfei remarked loudly. Sooner or later you'll embarrass yourself again. Kai met Yunfei's gaze directly, determination clear. We'll see. Their classmates murmured quietly, sensing rising tension. Ling Wei, a thoughtful and intelligent girl, approached Kai quietly afterward. Don't mind him, she whispered encouragingly. Yunfei hates competition. Just stay focused. Zhao Yu, a cheerful boy notorious for his carefree attitude, slapped Kai's shoulder with a grin. You shook Yunfei's confidence? You're officially my hero. Kai laughed quietly, appreciating their support. Ling Wei and Zhao Yu's kindness strengthened his resolve, fueling his desire to push forward. After school, Kai returned to the Monster Hunters Guild. Mei smiled upon seeing him again. Back so soon? I need another mission, Kai explained, smiling confidently. Mei nodded approvingly. You've improved since yesterday. All right. Try dealing with a group of razor-wing sparrows near the East Forest. The reward is better, 100 coins. Kai eagerly accepted, excitement and nervousness mingling. Razor-wing sparrows were swift and vicious, challenging for inexperienced hunters. Armed once again with his borrowed rusty sword, Kai headed toward the eastern forest. As he entered, the forest whispered with the breeze, shadows dancing around him. Minutes passed before Kai finally heard the unmistakable shriek of a razor-winged sparrow. 3 birds swooped aggressively from above, sharp claws extended. Instinctively, Kai dodged sideways, narrowly avoiding injury. Heart racing, he swung upwards, grazing one sparrow's wing, causing it to shriek in retreat. Another bird dove sharply. Kai stepped backward hastily, but claws sliced lightly across his arm, drawing blood. He hissed in pain, gritting his teeth. Calmly, Kai observed their attack patterns, recalling Master Lin's precise moves. When another sparrow descended, Kai sidestepped elegantly, countering swiftly, landing a precise blow. The bird fell silently. Experience plus 15, the system chimed. Confidence surged as Kai adapted quickly. His movements grew sharper, strikes became surer. He dispatched the remaining sparrows swiftly, blood pounding in his ears. Mission complete. Reward, 100 coins, 45 experience. Kai opened his status window eagerly. Level 2. Experience, 5 out of 150. Strength, 6. Health, 6. Spirituality, 5. Energy, 4. Agility, 6. Free attribute points, 2. Coins, 150. His eyes widened, he'd leveled up. Enthusiasm burned fiercely inside him as he carefully placed his 2 attribute points into strength and agility, immediately feeling newfound energy flowing through his limbs. Back at the guild, Mei looked surprised but impressed, handing Kai the 100 coins reward. "You're improving fast," she said, admiration in her voice. "Careful though. Monsters grow tougher quickly." Kai nodded gratefully. With coins in hand, he hurried excitedly to Azure Ridge's medicinal market. The bustling marketplace was filled with vibrant colors and loud bargaining voices. Kai approached a modest medicinal stall run by Old Han, a friendly shopkeeper known for fair prices. "I need something that helps with strength," Kai said respectfully. Old Han eyed Kai thoughtfully. "Limited funds, I see. Here, take these strength pills. Only 50 coins each. Small effect, but steady growth over time." Kai bought 2 pills eagerly, spending 100 coins. He immediately swallowed 1 pill, feeling gentle warmth spreading through his body, reinforcing his muscles and bones. Returning to the orphanage at dusk, exhaustion tugged heavily at his limbs, yet satisfaction filled his heart. He carefully hid his remaining pill beneath his mattress, determined to use it wisely. In bed, staring at the ceiling, Kai mentally reviewed his day. Every battle made him stronger, every interaction deepened his determination. With Master Lin's teachings, his new friend's encouragement, and the martial ascension system guiding him, Kai knew the path ahead was filled with endless possibilities. "I'll rise steadily," Kai promised himself softly. "One step at a time, no matter how long it takes." As sleep claimed him, Kai dreamt vividly of standing proudly before Azure Martial University's gates, ready to face whatever challenges awaited. He knew the road was tough and enemies like Yun Fei would try to block his progress, but the system provided clarity he'd never had before. He wouldn't fail. He wouldn't surrender. Tomorrow would mark another meaningful step forward on his journey of martial ascension. The next day dawned under a blood-orange sky. Kai arrived at school with a different energy in his steps. He'd leveled up. He'd defeated dangerous beasts. For the first time in his life, he wasn't just surviving, he was growing. As he walked through the school gates, a few students glanced his way. Some still didn't know his name. Others had heard rumors that the orphan Kai had taken down a group of razor-winged sparrows on his own, that he'd leveled up and started using pills. "Kai." He turned. Ling Wei approached, her long hair tied back in a high ponytail, a notebook tucked under one arm. She gave him a curious look. "You look different." "Do I?" Kai said, offering a small smile. "More confident. Like someone who knows what he's doing." Kai scratched the back of his head. "Maybe. I've been practicing." She tilted her head, her voice lowering slightly. "Keep it up. Some people are starting to notice." Behind her, Zhao Yu bounded up the steps, munching on fried bread. "What's this? Kai and Ling Wei chatting before class? Are we becoming a trio now?" Kai chuckled. "Good morning to you too." The 3 walked into class together. For Kai, it was a strange feeling, walking with people. Not just existing in the background. Not invisible. But the shift in atmosphere didn't go unnoticed. Yun Fei sat in his usual spot near the front, arms crossed, watching Kai with narrowed eyes. His fingers tapped rhythmically on the desk. He didn't like the way things were changing. Not one bit. When Master Lin entered, he immediately sensed the tension. The room quieted. "Today," he said, placing a scroll on the table, We focus on combat drills. Excited whispers spread through the room. Combat days were rare but highly anticipated. Everyone had to demonstrate progress. Kai's heart beat faster. This was it, a chance to test himself openly. The courtyard training area was already prepared. Dummies lined one side, sparring mats filled the other. Master Lin pointed at the sign-up board. Partners will be chosen randomly. No complaints. As names began appearing magically on the board, tension mounted. Then it happened. Kai versus Yunfei. The class buzzed. Someone gasped audibly. A few laughed. This will be quick, said a tall boy in the back. Yunfei rose immediately, a grin on his face. Finally. You get to show everyone what a real martial family heir can do. Kai said nothing. He stepped onto the mat, gripping the practice spear he'd chosen from the rack. Yunfei brandished a wooden sword, balanced and elegant. Master Lin's voice cut the air. Begin. Yunfei rushed in with practiced aggression. His movements were clean, years of training evident in every strike. Kai dodged backward, narrowly avoiding a slash. The crowd leaned in. Kai steadied his breathing. His system didn't activate during school drills, but his instincts had improved. He timed Yunfei's next attack and deflected it with the spear's shaft. The crowd murmured. You've improved, Yunfei hissed. But not enough. He launched a barrage of strikes. Kai dodged two, blocked the third and spun low, swinging his spear wide. The staff connected with Yunfei's ribs. The hit was clean. Point, Kai, Master Lin announced. Gasp. Someone clapped, then quickly stopped. Yunfei's face darkened. Lucky hit. They reset. Round 2. This time Yunfei held nothing back. Speed. Power. Precision. Kai blocked and countered, but a misstep cost him. Yunfei struck his shoulder, sending him stumbling. Point, Yunfei. One final round. Sweat dripped down Kai's brow. His shoulder ached, but he readied himself. His stance lowered, spear poised. They clashed. This time Kai didn't dodge. He pressed forward, turning defense into offense. Feints. Angles. Reading Yunfei's tells. The spear darted out like lightning. A clean strike across Yunfei's chest. Final point, Kai. Silence. No one spoke. Then whispers. Then a single clap. Zhao Yu. Yeah, he shouted. That's my guy. Ling Wei smiled faintly. Impressive. Master Lin nodded approvingly. Well fought, both of you. Yunfei glared, chest rising and falling. He stormed off the mat without a word. Kai stood still, breathing hard. His chest swelled, not with pride but with the solid feeling of earned respect. As class ended, more students looked his way. Some nodded. Others kept their distance, but the silence had changed. He wasn't invisible anymore. Later in the hallway, Yunfei stepped in front of Kai. You think this changes anything? He said lowly. You'll never be one of us. You're just a street rat playing at power. Kai didn't flinch. Maybe. But at least I'm climbing. He walked past, leaving Yunfei behind, seething. That night, Kai trained until his hands blistered. The spar had shown his growth, but also his limits. He needed better weapons. Pills. Techniques. Back in his room, he opened the system. Kai, Martial Ascension System. Level 2. Experience, 25 out of 150. Strength, 6. Health, 6. Spirituality, 5. Energy, 4. Agility, 6. Free attribute points, 0. Coins 50. No attribute gains today. No coins earned. But something more important had been won. Recognition. Tomorrow he'd take another mission. Earn more. Train harder. The path to Azure Martial University wasn't going to slow down. And neither would he. The forest behind the orphanage was quiet, tucked between the city walls and the vast stretch of unclaimed wilderness. Few students ever came here, too close to danger, too far from comfort. But for Kai it was perfect. It was the only place where he could train without being watched, without whispers or judgment. He arrived at dusk, carrying a pack with basic supplies, water, bandages, a worn training scroll, and the last strength pill he had hidden beneath his bed. The rusty sword still hung at his side, but even it felt different now. Balanced. Familiar. Kai cleared a small patch of earth, marked a center point with a rock and began. First came the footwork drills. Forward, pivot, retreat, sweep. His limbs moved awkwardly at first, still uncoordinated, but he pushed through. Then came strikes, precise thrusts, horizontal swings, defensive stances. The spear techniques Master Lin had shown him echoed in his memory. Hours passed. His body screamed in protest, but he kept going. Then a branch snapped nearby. Kai turned sharply, sweat dripping from his chin, sword ready. Whoa whoa. Zhao Yu held up both hands, laughing. Easy man. It's just me. Ling Wei stepped out from behind a tree, holding a lantern. We figured you were sneaking off to train. Turns out we were right. Kai blinked. You followed me? Zhao grinned. Noticed you disappearing after class every evening. I figured you were either up to something sketchy, or something smart. Ling Wei crossed her arms. Secret training? That's bold. Kai hesitated. I just want to catch up. I can't afford to waste time. Zhao Yu nodded. Then let us help. Kai looked between them, uncertain. Why? Because, Ling Wei said simply, you're not alone anymore. Zhao tossed him a water skin. Besides, I could use the extra practice. And I'm tired of getting beat in sparring. From that night on, the three trained together. They met every evening in the forest clearing. Ling Wei brought scrolls from her family's collection, old manuals on breathing techniques, balance and channeling energy. Zhao Yu brought humor and grit, always challenging Kai to push further. And Kai brought raw effort, the kind of tireless persistence that pulled them all forward. One night, as they rested under the stars, Kai opened his status window. Kai, Martial Ascension System. Level 2. Experience, 115 out of 150. Strength, 7. Health, 7. Spirituality, 6. Energy, 4. Agility, 7. Free attribute points, 0. Coins, 75. He'd taken 2 hunting missions that week, one involving cave mites near the outer ridge, and another escorting a herb-gathering caravan. Both had been dangerous but profitable. Ling Wei leaned back against a tree. You're improving fast. Not fast enough, Kai replied. I need to level up again before the entrance exam. Zhao Yu yawned, stretching his arms. I just want to not get wiped in the first round. Don't sell yourself short, Kai said. You've got the strongest stamina out of any of us. Zhao grinned. True. My technique's trash, but I can take a hit. They laughed quietly. Kai stared at the night sky, wondering what the university would be like. The stories painted it as a shining fortress of knowledge and power. Students trained under grandmasters. They studied rare techniques. Some even tamed spiritual beasts. One day he'd see it with his own eyes. One night, during training, the system pinged. Congratulations. You have leveled up. Level 3. Experience, 0 out of 200. Strength, 8. Health, 8. Spirituality, 6. Energy, 5. Agility, 8. Free attribute points, 3. He immediately allocated 2 points to strength and 1 to energy. A wave of heat rushed through him. His muscles tightened, bones reinforcing. His senses sharpened. You okay? Ling Wei asked. Kai opened his eyes slowly. Yeah. I just leveled up. Zhao whistled. Look at you, Mr. Progress. Kai smiled faintly. We're all getting there. One step at a time. But deep inside he knew it wouldn't be enough. Not yet. He needed techniques. Real ones. Something more than just swinging a sword or mimicking stances. He needed a breakthrough. That night, as he returned to the orphanage, an idea formed. The school library stored old martial manuals, most locked behind access restrictions. But a few basics, those still held secrets. Maybe enough to give him an edge. He would find a way in. And if he couldn't? He'd make his own path no matter what it took. Azure Ridge woke with a storm of voices. Vendors shouted the price of their wares, the clang of iron rang from blacksmiths' workshops, and the smell of bitter herbs drifted from simmering pots outside apothecaries. The city's outer district pulsed with life, noise, and ambition. Kai stood in the center of it, feeling small. This was where martial artists came to transform their potential into power. Pills, weapons, elixirs, and scrolls, it was all here if you could afford it. He opened the string pouch tied at his belt. Inside were 75 coins, gleaming softly in the morning sun. Not much. Barely anything in a world where a single Tier 1 strength pill could cost over 100. But it was all he had. All earned from hard, dangerous missions. Razor-wing sparrows, cave mites, escorting old herbalists through monster-infested woods. And now he had to decide how to spend every single coin with care. A large man in armor stood beside a wooden stall stacked with short swords and axes. Iron-forged dagger, 15 coins. Basic steel short blade, 80 coins. Don't let your next enemy be your last. Kai paused briefly, eyeing a battered but sturdy short blade. It had a thick grip, slight curve, and visible wear, a weapon that had seen battle. He asked, Is that one for sale? The merchant looked over. That one. Used. 60 coins. It'll cut better than any stick you're swinging. Kai hesitated. His fingers twitched with the thought of holding real steel, something better than the blunt training weapons at school or the rusty blade from the Hunter's Guild. But no. He couldn't afford to spend everything on a weapon. Not yet. He needed to get stronger first. His body, his foundation. Even the best blade would be useless if he couldn't swing it with power. With regret, he stepped away from the weapon stalls and made his way deeper into the market. The air thickened with the scent of herbs and incense. Smoke curled from brass burners, and strange symbols were painted on linen signs fluttering above shaded awnings. This was the apothecary's lane, where potion masters, pill refiners, and spiritual healers sold their creations. Essence powder. Grind it into your tea and watch your skin harden like bark. Refined focus elixir, for perfect meditation. Red spirit root, 25 coins per leaf. Kai ignored the noise until he saw old Han's stall. The elderly apothecary was hunched, his face lined like old parchment, but his eyes were sharp. Dozens of small clay jars and lacquered boxes lined the table before him. Back again? Old Han said, not even looking up. Thought you'd have died by now. Kai chuckled. Not yet. I've got 75 coins. I need strength. Pills if possible. Han finally looked at him. His gaze swept over Kai slowly. Still skin and bones. Fine. I've got a few broken grade pills. Refined poorly, not fit for real cultivators, but they'll stir your blood a bit. He reached under the table and pulled out a cloth pouch, unrolling it carefully. Inside were 3 small red pills, each slightly uneven in shape, with faint cracks along the surface. A bitter, earthy scent wafted up. 50 coins for 2, Han said. Take both and you'll feel it in your bones. But your stomach won't like it. Kai nodded without haggling. He'd learned early, trusting old Han meant trusting the price. He handed over the coins. Don't take them both at once, Han warned, or you'll be rolling in the mud by sunset. Kai tucked the pills safely into his pouch, bowing deeply. Thank you, old Han. That evening, the forest clearing behind the orphanage was still. Only the sound of insects chirping broke the silence. The moon had just begun to rise, casting silver light through the trees. Zhao Yu arrived with a grin, tossing his bag aside. Let me guess, mysterious pills? Kai pulled one from the pouch. Strength enhancing. Poorly refined, but it's all I could afford. Ling Wei appeared next, setting a lantern on a nearby rock. You're really risking your body for every inch of power? Kai smiled. Every inch might be the difference between passing and failing the exam. He sat cross-legged on the dirt, placed the pill in his mouth and swallowed. For a moment, nothing. Then the burn started. It wasn't a pleasant warmth, like spiritual energy circulating. It was heat. Sharp, stabbing, pulsing heat, like his blood had turned to fire. Kai gasped, clutching his chest. Zhao stepped forward. Hey, are you? Wait, Ling Wei said firmly. Let it pass. Kai gritted his teeth, fingers digging into the earth. His veins felt swollen. Muscles trembled under sudden pressure. Sweat poured down his face, soaking his shirt. Then, like a crashing wave receding from shore, the fire ebbed. His breathing slowed. Kai opened his eyes. Colors looked sharper. His arms felt heavier, stronger. His fingers clenched reflexively. He felt denser. He stood slowly. I feel it. It worked. Status update. Level 3. Experience 40 out of 200. Strength 10. Health 8. Spirituality 6. Energy 6. Agility 8. Free attribute points 1. Coins 25. Double digits, Zhao said, peering at the panel. You've passed the first threshold. Barely, Kai replied. But I'll take every bit of progress. They trained long into the night. Footwork drills, target strikes, and breathing exercises. Ling Wei brought a basic flow technique she'd found in her family's archives. Crane form breathing, designed to circulate energy and improve muscle coordination. Kai practiced it obsessively, repeating the motions over and over until his limbs ached. Later, as they lay on their backs in the grass, staring at the stars, Zhao murmured, Do you think we'll all make it into the university? Ling Wei didn't answer immediately. Then, not all of us will. That's just the truth. Zhao sighed. Harsh. But, she added, some of us will make it farther than anyone expects. Kai stared at the sky, his fingers resting on the hilt of his blade. I have to make it. I can't stay where I am. He didn't say the rest, that the orphanage barely had enough food, that he'd seen what life without power meant. that if he failed no one would catch him. The next morning he went back to the market. This time he stood in front of the weapons stall. The steel short blade was still there. The merchant spotted him. Back again, huh? Kai held up his coin pouch. How much for it now? 60. Kai paused. I have 25. The merchant laughed. Kid, what do you want me to do with 25? I'll bring you the rest, Kai said. But I want to put something down. I need this blade. The merchant stared at him. Something in Kai's eyes, fierce, unyielding, made him hesitate. Fine. Leave the 25. Come back within 3 days. Otherwise I sell it. Kai nodded firmly, placing the coins on the table. The merchant wrapped the blade and set it aside. As he walked away, Kai clenched his fists. 3 days to make 35 coins. 3 days to prove his will. He would take more missions. Push harder. Risk more. If he wanted to survive the exam and step foot into Azure Martial University, he needed to fight for every advantage. Every pill, every weapon, every breath. In the upper districts of Azure Ridge, where cobblestone roads gleamed from constant upkeep and armored guards patrolled silently, the Yun family estate stood like a fortress. Stone towers rose behind high walls, banners bearing the Yun crest fluttering in the wind, a silver hawk diving downward, claws extended. Inside the central hall, Yun Fei knelt on a silk mat before a long table. At its head sat Yun Tianhai, his father and the current patriarch of the Yun family. His presence weighed heavily in the room. A man forged by war, Yun Tianhai's eyes had no softness, only scrutiny. Kai, he repeated slowly, his voice like thunder contained in a jar. An orphan. Defeated you. Twice. Yun Fei kept his head bowed. It was a fluke. You shamed our name, Tianhai said coldly. In front of your classmates. In front of Master Lin. In front of your blood. The air in the room was thick. A single mistake could lead to a punishment worse than a scolding. Yun Tianhai stood, walking toward the training rack at the side of the hall. He picked up a weighted iron rod, balancing it in his hand. Do you know how I earned my place in this family? Yes, father, Yun Fei said tightly. Through battle. Through missions in the southern wastes. I bled to raise our name. Our crest flies above shops, halls, and schools in this city because of what I sacrificed. And now we're mocked, because my son lost to a gutter-born no-name. He tossed the iron rod at Yun Fei's feet. Stand. Show me you haven't wasted your years. Yun Fei rose slowly, grabbing the rod. Its weight made his arms strain immediately. Yun Tianhai didn't attack with words after that. He attacked with form. Each strike he launched was like a collapsing mountain, swift, direct, and punishing. Yun Fei parried, retreated, stepped forward. Pain flared through his wrists and shoulders, but he did not drop the rod. Half an hour later, bruised and winded, Yun Fei dropped to one knee. Yun Tianhai stood over him. You have 3 weeks until the university exam. Either you crush this Kai, or you will be removed from the family register. You will not bring shame upon this house again. Yun Fei lowered his head. Rage and humiliation churned beneath his calm exterior. Yes, father. Meanwhile, back in the outer district, Kai returned from another monster hunt. Blood soaked his sleeves and small claw marks decorated his forearm from a fight with a tunnel spider. He carried a torn pouch of monster cores, low-grade but sellable. Another 3 kills today, he muttered to himself, limping slightly as he reached the guild. May greeted him with a mixture of concern and admiration. You keep showing up alive. That's more than I can say for half the kids your age. He smiled wearily. Not planning on dying just yet. Wait here. I'll bring your reward. She returned with a small satchel of coins. 25. Plus 5 bonus for quick completion. He nodded, grateful. That brought his total to 35, just enough to reclaim the short blade. As he exited the guild, he passed a bulletin board showing the countdown. Martial University entrance exam, 21 days remaining. The city buzzed with talk about it. Students across Azure Ridge were entering their final phase of training. Test areas were being prepared near the Grand Coliseum, and rumors flew about which elite families were sponsoring new recruits. Kai clutched his coin pouch tighter. He had 21 days to become someone worth admitting. That night, back in the forest, he laid out his coins beside the short blade stall. The merchant grunted. You're lucky. I had 2 offers on it yesterday. Kai nodded. It's mine now. The merchant handed him the blade, now oiled and sharpened. She's old but balanced. Treat her well and she'll outlast you. Kai gripped the weapon carefully. It felt natural. He gave it a practice swing. Smooth. Clean. The weight fit his palm perfectly. He spent the next 4 hours drilling relentlessly under the moonlight, pushing his movements with newfound precision. His strikes no longer hesitated. The rhythm of combat was settling into his bones. Kai, status panel. Level 3. Experience, 120 out of 200. Strength, 10. Health, 8. Spirituality, 6. Energy, 6. Agility, 9. Free attribute points, 1. Coins, 2. The system pinged softly. You have unlocked combat proficiency bonus, blade affinity I. Passive skill, increases effectiveness with short blades and one-handed swords by 5%. Kai's eyes widened. Finally, he whispered. Back in the Yun estate, Yun Fei sat alone in his chamber, nursing bruises and studying forbidden techniques from the family archives. Pages filled with notes on pressure points, energy disruption and shadow step footwork. His jaw clenched. If I can't beat you head-on, Kai, I'll beat you from the shadows. The sky above Azure Ridge was layered with thick gray clouds. The storm was coming. Kai pulled his cloak tighter around his shoulders and adjusted the strap of his pack. His new steel short blade rested in a sheath at his hip, polished and battle-worn. The cold metal was reassuring, like a silent companion he trusted more than most people. A new mission had come down through the Hunters Guild. Investigate a series of creature sightings near the Shadowpine Vale, a dense woodland on the southern edge of the ridge. Small teams were encouraged, soloing wasn't advised. Kai didn't hesitate. When Zhao Yu and Ling Wei agreed to come along, they didn't even ask what the reward was. They just showed up at dawn, packs loaded. 3 copper-ranked hunters disappeared there last week, Ling Wei said, scanning the treeline as they reached the edge of the forest. They weren't amateurs. Great, Zhao muttered. So we're smarter than they were, or just dumber for following? Kai kept his gaze forward. Smarter. We don't fight to show off. We fight to survive. The 3 entered the woods quietly. Shadowpine Vale was named for the towering, dark-needled trees that blocked out the sun even at midday. Wind barely stirred the air. Roots twisted like veins underfoot and damp moss covered everything. The further they went, the quieter it became. Every snap of a twig echoed like a warning. After 2 hours of scouting, they found something. A shredded pack, leather torn, stained dark with old blood. A broken spear lay nearby, snapped clean in half. No body. Kai crouched low. Tracks clawed feet. 3 toes. Heavy tail dragging behind. Zhao bent beside him. Same ones from the Iron Scale Ravine. That's a Tier 2 predator. They don't normally come this close to the city, Ling Wei said. They are now, Kai answered. We'll scout further, find where they're nesting. They moved carefully, following the trail. It wound around thick trees and through clusters of rocks and deadfall. Then the air changed. The smell hit them first, rank like rotting meat and wet fur. Kai raised a hand. There. Ahead, in a shallow cave at the base of a hill, lay a nest of moss and bones. Bones of deer, boars, and at least 1 human skeleton. 3 creatures lounged near the mouth of the den, thickly muscled beasts with plated hides, long snouts and black eyes that reflected nothing. Their claws were sharp enough to gouge through stone. Scale fangs, Ling Wei whispered. All Tier 2. Zhao's throat clicked. We can't take 3. We're not going to, Kai said. We create a diversion. I'll pull one. You 2 cover me with ranged fire. We separate them, take 1 down and escape. Simple. They moved into position. Ling Wei readied her throwing daggers, laced with slow-acting venom. Zhao unslung a shortbow. Kai stepped out into the open just past the treeline. He didn't need to speak. His presence alone drew attention. One of the scale fangs rose, growling low in its throat. It charged him. Kai turned and ran. The forest blurred as he sprinted, dodging roots and ducking low-hanging branches. Behind him, the beast tore through foliage like paper. He reached a shallow ridge and turned, planting his feet. Steel flashed. The short blade bit into thick hide, deflecting off the first scale plate and slipping between gaps in the second. The beast roared and swiped, claws slashing through Kai's cloak and raking across his side. Pain flared, hot and immediate. But Kai didn't fall. Arrows zipped through the air, Zhao's shot striking joints, slowing the beast's advance. A dagger struck its eye, thrown with brutal precision by Ling Wei. The creature collapsed, twitching once, then still. Kai fell to 1 knee, clutching his side. Ling Wei appeared beside him, pressing a cloth to the wound. You're bleeding. Not dead though, Kai muttered, teeth gritted. Zhao exhaled hard as he reached them. 2 more left. We should go. Kai nodded. Mission's done. Let's move. Back at the Hunters Guild, May stared at the clawed armor Kai wore and the pack of fangs and bone samples they delivered. You brought proof of a nest? That's worth more than the reward. She handed them a bag. 100 coins, split however you want. Kai nodded, pushing his share, 40 coins, into his pouch. He opened his system panel once they returned home. Kai, status panel. Level 4. Experience, 30 of 250. Strength, 11. Health, 9. Spirituality, 7. Energy, 7. Agility, 10. Free attribute points, 2. Coins, 42. He placed both attribute points into health, feeling his wound stitch faster than it should. That night, he lay in bed with a fresh scar across his ribs, a new blade at his side, and one thought echoing in his mind. Danger is everywhere now. If I can't adapt, I die. Far from him, in a candlelit chamber of the Yun estate, Yun Fei closed a leather-bound notebook and blew out the flame. Inside that notebook were every known mission Kai had taken, every battle, every confirmed kill. He ran his fingers down the page slowly. You think you're climbing, Kai? He whispered. But you're climbing toward my blade. The sun barely rose above the eastern peaks when bells began to ring from Azure Ridge's central tower. Loud, rhythmic, urgent. Kai was still tying the final wrap of his bandages when he heard it. He stepped out of the orphanage just as others emerged from their homes, looking skyward. 3 chimes. Then silence. Zhao Yu caught up to him down the street, wide-eyed and bouncing with nervous energy. It's the university announcement. It has to be. Kai nodded, barely hiding the storm inside him. It's early. Ling Wei met them at the city square. She carried a scroll case at her side, her dark eyes scanning the gathering crowd. Master Lin said it would be soon. This is earlier than expected, though. In front of the marble staircase to Azure Ridge Hall, a temporary stage had been erected. City guards lined the edges. On the platform stood representatives from 3 powerful forces. A silver-robed elder from the Azure Martial University, flanked by attendants with scrolls. A stern officer in dark armor from the Frontline Defense Corps, the military arm of the Blue Planet. And a broad-shouldered man with tiger tattoos on his arms, the head of the Bronze Fist clan, one of the region's most powerful martial families. The crowd fell silent. The university elder stepped forward. His voice, empowered by a voice-carrying formation, echoed through the square. By decree of the Regional Martial Council, the university martial examination will be held in 10 days' time, at the Grand Coliseum of Azure Ridge. All eligible candidates may apply through their school or martial family registry. A stir passed through the crowd. The elder raised a hand, continuing. This year's examination will consist of 3 phases. Phase 1, Combat Evaluation. All candidates will enter the arena and face selected magical beasts or illusions tailored to their level. Phase 2, Technique Application. Demonstrate your martial technique, affinity control, and mental discipline. Phase 3, Survival Trial. A limited number of examinees will be dropped into a simulated battlefield. The top survivors will receive direct university invitations. Gasps rippled outward. It wasn't just a test. It was a public spectacle, a war trial wrapped in tradition. And this year, the elder continued, the Azure Martial University has opened 10 additional admission slots for commoners with no clan or family backing. That caused a murmur. People looked around. 10 extra slots. For students like Kai. Zhao Yu leaned over. That's your opening. Kai didn't answer. He stared at the elder, jaw tight. His fists clenched at his sides. The crowd began to disperse as guards distributed registration tokens to qualified students. Small crystal chips, each containing the student's name, age, and school record. Kai stepped forward, joining the line of others. He saw the difference in every direction. Noble sons dressed in embroidered coats, clan-trained girls with polished spirit steel weapons. Then there was him, plain clothes, patched armor, a sword worn from use. But his eyes were clearer than most of theirs. He reached the front of the line. A clerk looked up, unimpressed. Name? Kai. The man raised a brow. Just Kai. I don't have a family name. School? Azure Ridge Public Academy. Backing? None. The clerk sighed. Token issued under Independent Candidate. Your number, 72. A soft click sounded as the small glass token lit up in Kai's hand. Faint golden runes shimmered across its surface. He stepped aside, staring at it. 10 days. 10 days to get stronger, faster, sharper. 10 days to close the gap between himself and clan heirs who'd trained since birth. That evening, back in Master Lin's classroom, a rare energy buzzed through the air. Students compared token numbers, whispered rumors of what each exam phase might include, and speculated about beast rankings and terrain zones. Master Lin stood at the front with arms crossed. He waited until the noise faded. "You have 10 days, he said simply. "Some of you are ready. Most of you are not." Yun Fei leaned back in his chair, silent but smiling. Master Lin's eyes flicked toward Kai. "There's no guarantee you'll survive. This year's exam is being overseen directly by an inner gate elder. Fail the first round and you won't get another chance next year. Understand?" Silence. Then the teacher nodded once. "You are dismissed. But you are not done." As the class emptied, Kai stayed behind. Master Lin didn't speak until they were alone. "You've improved. More than I expected." Kai bowed. "Thank you, Master." "Still not enough," Lin said bluntly. "You need a technique. A real one." Kai hesitated. "I've been training breathing forms. And sparring every day. You need a foundation-level movement technique. And a finishing strike, something clean, controlled, lethal. One moment of weakness in the arena will get you maimed." He reached under his desk, pulling out an old scroll. "I'm not allowed to give this to students without permission from the university," Lin said. "But I'm not letting you walk into that arena with nothing." Kai took the scroll carefully. The characters glowed faintly. Iron Echo Step, Tier 1 Movement Technique. Shadow Fang Style, Tier 1 Blade Form Modified. His heart beat faster. These were real techniques, family-guarded skills most orphans never touched. "Don't thank me yet," Lin said. "You'll bleed for every inch of mastery. Go." The next 8 days blurred into one. Kai trained until his legs failed and his arms refused to lift. Every cut from the Shadow Fang form, every step from Iron Echo, was repeated until muscle memory took over. He did not stop for weather. He did not stop for pain. He hunted twice more, each time taking greater risks, earning experience, coin and core materials to trade. He fought a bloodjaw boar and barely lived, walking away with a tusk, a scar and another 20 coins. He broke through again. Kai, status update. Level 5. Experience, 15 of 300. Strength 13. Health, 11. Spirituality, 8. Energy 9. Agility, 11. Free attribute points, 2. Techniques. Iron Echo Step, Beginner. Shadow Fang Form, Beginner. 2 days remained. He sat on a rooftop overlooking the Grand Colosseum, where laborers were constructing platforms, illusion matrices and beast summoning fields. Ling Wei joined him quietly, sitting beside him without a word. Zhao Yu arrived minutes later, carrying a bag of roasted nuts and tossing a few to Kai without asking. None of them spoke for a long time. Then Kai finally said it. "I'm ready." The city square outside Azure Ridge's main barracks was uncharacteristically quiet. No merchants shouting prices, no passers-by chatting over tea, no clang of blacksmiths shaping iron. Only rows of students, all between the ages of 15 and 19, standing tall in formation. Among them stood Kai. He wore plain gray training clothes with reinforced cloth patches at the shoulders and knees. His short blade was strapped across his back, and his token, number 72, hung from a thin leather cord around his neck. His eyes, though tired, held fire. To his left stood Zhao Yu, bouncing slightly on the balls of his feet. To his right, Ling Wei, composed and watchful. A man in a dark officer's uniform stood at the front of the platform. His chest plate gleamed under the morning light, and across his back was strapped a heavy two-handed blade. He didn't speak at first, only let his sharp gaze sweep across the students until all chatter had died. "I am Instructor Demon Trask," he said finally, his voice deep and crisp like split stone. "You are here because your school recommended you. Because your family pushed you. Or because you chose to take the harder road." His eyes locked on Kai for a brief moment. "This training camp is not a game. It is not a reward. It is not a vacation before the exam." Pause. Silence stretched. "It is a battlefield." He gestured, and the ground behind him opened, an array platform shifting and swirling as dozens of stone tiles rearranged into a wide formation. The air shimmered. A girl near the front gasped. The illusion cleared to reveal a new location. Massive open plains surrounded by cliffs, forests, and stone towers. A simulated training zone, layered with formations to mimic reality. You will live in the Warring Grounds simulation for the next 48 hours. There will be no contact with the outside world, no timeouts, and no resets. Inside you will find rations, wild beasts, wandering instructors, and simulated enemies. Zhao leaned toward Kai. That's a lot for a training camp. Kai didn't answer. His gaze remained locked forward. You are not being tested for victory, Trask continued. You are being tested for survival. For initiative. For instinct. Inside the simulation, he added, everything matters. And the injuries you take are real. Before anyone could respond, he raised his hand. Enter. One by one, students were called forward and passed through the formation gate, vanishing in a shimmer of light. When Kai's number was called, he stepped forward without hesitation. The moment he stepped through, heat wrapped around him. The scent of grass, earth, and blood hit his nose. Sunlight beat down from above, and the sky stretched wide and blue. To his right were stone towers. To his left, broken ruins overgrown with vines. Trees lined the edges of a distant forest. He was alone. No visible signs of the others. No instructions. The simulation had begun. Kai moved immediately. He ducked into the tall grass, circling toward the nearby ruins. His blade remained sheathed, but his senses sharpened. His system chimed softly in his mind. Special field detected, combat simulation zone. Temporary buffs, increased stamina recovery, minor, combat awareness, minor. Objective, survive, hunt, and adapt. Scoring system hidden. He climbed a slope cautiously and reached a ruined archway, ducking into the shadows. He waited, breathing evenly. Listening. Then, a sound. Movement. From the trees came a large boar-like creature, tusked and armored with bone ridges across its back. A stone-hide tuskwallow, Tier 2 beast. Kai unsheathed his blade, held his breath, and moved in a crouch. He didn't attack immediately. He studied its pacing, its breathing, its exposed flank. Then he struck. One clean slash across the leg tendon just behind the armor plate. The beast roared, turning clumsily. Kai ducked its retaliatory swing, rolled beneath its snout, and plunged his blade deep into the underbelly. The creature shuddered, collapsed, and vanished into light. Simulated kill, 12 points awarded. Kai exhaled slowly. Points. So there was a score system. He searched the creature's simulated corpse and found rations, dried meat and a flask of water, and a slip of paper containing 3 symbols. Likely a coded message or test key. He packed them and moved on. Over the next several hours, Kai fought and avoided beasts, built a temporary camp beneath a collapsed wall, and studied the terrain. He took out a pack of horned desert foxes, avoided a simulated assassin that took down 2 other students nearby, and even briefly glimpsed Yun Fei crossing the far ridge with a small group. By nightfall, Kai had 84 points and 5 slips of coded paper. But exhaustion tugged at his limbs. He ate half the rations, drank sparingly, and rested only long enough to stretch his muscles. He didn't dare sleep long. The simulation didn't allow complacency. By morning, things escalated. The simulation changed. Runes in the sky pulsed. System notice. Phase 2, group conflict unlocked. New objective, defend or claim control towers. Cooperation permitted. Points for survival, kills, and objectives. That changed everything. Kai moved fast, tracking toward one of the closest towers. Along the way, he ran into a group of 3 students, one from the Bronze Fist clan and 2 commoners. They recognized him immediately. That's the Orphan, one muttered. The one who beat Yun Fei. Kai didn't wait for them to decide whether to attack or not. He vanished into the grass. Using Iron Echo Step, he circled behind them, drawing his blade silently. 3 slashes. Cling. Fast. He didn't kill, but disarmed, disabled, and claimed their coded slips. Simulated subdues, 6 points each. Near the tower he saw Zhao Yu. His friend waved him over. About time. You found this place? Kai asked. Held it since morning. Ling Wei took the one to the east. Together they defended the tower from 2 waves of challengers. Then a 3rd wave came, more organized, stronger. Kai pushed himself past his limits, using Shadow Fang form to dismantle 2 opponents with brutal precision. Arcs of movement. Cuts low, slashes fast. Zhao took a cut to the shoulder but fought with wild energy. When the dust settled, they still held the tower. Then a figure appeared across the hill. Yun Fei. He stood flanked by 2 students wearing insignias from a northern sect. His gaze met Kai's, and for a moment the entire field felt still. Then he turned and walked away. I'll see you in the real exam, his voice echoed even though he never turned back. By the end of the 48-hour simulation, Kai had accumulated 142 survival points, 24 combat points, 7 coded slips, and control time on 1 tower for 8 hours. As he stepped through the exit gate, he stumbled. His body felt drained. His vision blurred from fatigue. Dirt clung to his clothes and his blade was dulled from use. But he had survived. And now, only one thing remained. The real exam. The simulation was over, but the pressure had only begun. 3 days remained before the university entrance exam, and Azure Ridge was no longer calm. Banners hung from rooftops, the city gates were patrolled by double the usual guards, and distant caravans rolled into town, bringing spectators, teachers, clan leaders, and scouts from major organizations. The exam wasn't just a test, it was a spectacle. A battlefield. A proving ground. Kai sat at the edge of the training field behind the orphanage, legs crossed, blade resting across his knees. His eyes were closed, breathing steady. The aftermath of the simulation still weighed on his body, tight muscles, old bruises, a sore ankle from a fall he took near the tower during the last phase. But more than that, his mind was buzzing. The simulation had proven what he already knew. Survival was more than strength. It was instinct, adaptability, and endurance. He opened his eyes slowly and brought up his system panel. Kai, Martial Ascension System. Level, 6. Experience, 40 of 350. Strength, 14. Health, 12. Spirituality, 9. Energy, 10. Agility, 12. Free attribute points, 3. Techniques. Iron Echo Step, Intermediate. Shadow Fang Form, Intermediate. Temporary buffs, none. Coins, 64. He immediately placed the 3 free points, 2 into spirituality and 1 into agility. His body trembled slightly as the change settled into his bones. Spirituality didn't just govern raw magical potential, it also improved energy circulation, made techniques more fluid and reduced fatigue during long fights. He had learned that the hard way. From the far side of the field, footsteps crunched across the gravel. Master Lin approached, hands folded behind his back, eyes calmly watching Kai. "You're pushing your limits again," Lin said softly. Kai stood and bowed. "I have to. There's no other way to close the gap." Lin nodded. "I watched the recordings from the training simulation. You did more than survive. You adapted faster than any commoner I've trained in 5 years." Kai blinked. "They recorded it?" "Of course. University instructors, clan elders, sect recruiters, they all watched." Kai's throat tightened. "What did they see?" "They saw you make decisions under pressure. Saw you fight with control. Saw you protect your allies. But they also saw your hesitation with advanced techniques. Your footwork loses form after 3 consecutive bursts. Your spiritual control fades under stress." Kai lowered his eyes. "I know. There's time left," Lin said. "Barely. Come." Master Lin led Kai deeper into the academy's hidden courtyard, through a locked gate that only instructors were permitted to enter. The training ground here was different, lined with stone formations that pulsed faintly with energy. Spiritual pressure hung in the air like morning fog. Kai had never been here before. Lin gestured toward a marble pedestal. "Stand there. Don't move." Kai obeyed. A moment later, runes on the pedestal lit up beneath his feet. Instantly he felt it, a heavy weight pressing down on his limbs. A gravitational pull, slow and suffocating. "This is a high-density pressure field," Lin explained. "It forces your muscles to compensate, your stance to adjust. Every flaw in your form will be amplified." Kai struggled to hold position. His knees trembled. His back ached. "You'll stay here for 1 hour," Lin said. "Then we begin the form drills again. Every mistake will be punished by the field itself. And if you collapse..." "I get back up," Kai grunted. Lin smiled faintly. "Good. Let's begin." For the next 2 days, Kai trained harder than he ever had before. He drilled Iron Echo Step under shifting pressure fields, ran formation paths while carrying heavy stones, and practiced Shadow Fang Form blindfolded, learning to trust muscle memory and spiritual flow. Each time he collapsed, Master Lin made him rise. Each time he faltered, Zhao Yu or Ling Wei appeared with water, food, or quiet support. They trained too in their own ways but always circled back to Kai. "You're going to outshine all of them," Zhao said on the last night before the exam, lying in the orphanage courtyard and staring at the stars. "Or get destroyed trying," Kai replied. Ling Wei added, "Either way, you'll be unforgettable." They laughed, soft and tired. The city was quiet that night. Too quiet. But not everywhere. Deep beneath Azure Ridge, in an underground compound lit by oil lamps and spiritual fire, a different kind of preparation was happening. Yun Fei stood shirtless, steam rising from his skin, blood dripping from a shallow cut across his palm. Before him knelt a cloaked figure, holding a wooden box engraved with forbidden seals. "You understand what you're asking for?" the figure rasped. "Yes," Yun Fei said without hesitation. "Then you accept the cost?" Yun Fei nodded. The box opened. Inside lay a bone-white pill, covered in vein-like markings. It pulsed with a dark light. "This is a legacy pill from the old conflict," the figure said. "It will sharpen your strength, enhance your reflexes, and temporarily raise your cultivation by 1 full level. But it will feed on your vitality. 1 month of use. Then the price must be paid." Yun Fei took the pill, hands trembling slightly. "I will not lose to Kai," he whispered. "I will not lose to anyone." Morning came fast. The city was alive with excitement. Banners flew from the rooftops. Shopkeepers handed out small wooden talismans engraved with hopeful phrases: "Climb high. Strike true. Survive the trial." Thousands filled the outer edges of the Grand Colosseum, a circular arena built into the side of Azure Ridge's mountain wall. A massive force field barrier shimmered over the arena's center, activated by the university's elders. It would protect the spectators from stray attacks, or beasts. Inside the preparation hall, candidates lined up to check in. Kai stood quietly, number 72 still hanging from his neck. Around him stood warriors from all walks of life, noble heirs in enchanted armor, clan-raised prodigies with family blades, and a few scattered independents like himself. Ling Wei appeared in a silver-lined robe that bore her family crest but remained simple in design. She smiled softly. "Nervous?" "Focused," Kai said. Zhao Yu adjusted his bracers. "I'm nervous enough for all 3 of us." One by one names were called. Candidates stepped into the staging area, where instructors double-checked tokens, verified identities, and handed out final instructions. Then the announcer's voice boomed through the Colosseum. "Let the Azure Martial entrance examination begin." The crowd erupted into cheers. A massive platform lifted the first batch of examinees into the arena. Among them, Kai Ling Wei and Zhao Yu. Kai's hands tightened on his blade. This was it. No more simulations. No more practice. Only survival. Only strength. Only the path forward. The platform rose slowly, stone gears grinding with deep, echoing clicks. As Kai emerged into the open air of the Grand Colosseum, sunlight bathed the arena floor in golden light. The roar of the crowd was overwhelming, cheers, drums, chants, and voices all blending into a single tide of sound. For a brief moment, Kai felt like he was standing on the edge of the world. Thousands had gathered to watch. On towering seats encircling the Colosseum, nobles, merchants, warriors, and commoners sat side by side. Banners waved for families and schools. Among the dignitaries sat representatives from the Azure Martial University, the Frontline Defense Corps, and elite martial clans, their gazes locked on the arena with sharp interest. Kai's eyes scanned the environment. The arena itself was massive, circular, with several terrain zones built into its layout. A forest patch near the western edge. Rocky hills toward the north. A shallow ravine trench running east to west. And sand pits lining the center. 30 examinees rose on the same platform, including Kai Ling Wei, Zhao Yu, and Yun Fei. A voice thundered across the arena. "Welcome, honored guests and hopeful warriors. Today begins the first phase of the Azure Martial University entrance examination, the Arena of Beasts." The crowd erupted again. "In this trial, you will face a sequence of escalating magical beasts, released in waves. Your task: survive, defend your territory, and protect the civilian warding crystal located in the center of the arena." A new platform rose from the center, a glowing white crystal surrounded by a rune circle. If the crystal is shattered, the test ends. Survivors at that time will be evaluated on skill, contribution, and control. Kill counts matter, but so does coordination. Kai exhaled slowly. A group trial. The strongest could easily show off, but the smartest would survive. The voice continued. "Wave 1 begins in 30 seconds. Prepare yourselves." Kai immediately moved to the edge of the sandy center, scanning the terrain. He wasn't the only one. Yun Fei had already claimed a ridge near the forest line. A few clan students formed tight groups along the higher rocks. Others clustered around the crystal, weapons drawn. Zhao moved next to Kai, bow slung over his back. "I'll provide cover from the rock ledge," he said. "You hold the front?" Kai nodded. "Ling Wei. I'll float between squads. Support and information." They trained for this. The crystal pulsed and a deep horn sounded across the field. Wave 1, initiated. The ground rumbled. From behind concealed gates, the first wave of beasts charged forward, 20 beasts low tier. Graytail rats, boneclaw lizards and spined wolves. Fast but manageable. Kai drew his blade, inhaled and stepped into stance. 2 rats reached him first. He sidestepped the first, slashed the second mid-leap and slammed the hilt into the skull of the third. His form flowed like water, iron echo steps adjusting his footwork mid-motion, conserving energy. Zhao's arrows struck from behind. One lizard went down with a whimper, another spun, confused and slowed by venom. Kai finished it with a clean thrust through the neck. The crowd gasped at the smooth precision. Candidate 72, who is that? A voice echoed in the crowd. Independent. No clan backing, another replied. Look at his balance. That form, university level. More beasts poured in but they worked together, Kai, Zhao and Ling Wei rotating like parts of a clock. By the end of Wave 1 the crystal remained untouched. Kai checked his system. Status update. Wave 1 complete. Kills, 8. Assists, 4. Minor damage, 3%. Score adjustment, above average. Then the platform pulsed again. Wave 2 begin. This time the beasts were larger, clawback panthers, razor beaks and a tier 2 stonehide boar. The crowd shouted louder as a panther leapt over the trench, lunging straight for the crystal. Kai moved faster, using iron echo to blink to its side and slashing upward. The beast dodged, but he rotated into a side cut, slicing through its hind leg. A blast of spiritual energy from Ling Wei finished it off. On the far end Yunfei finally moved. He stepped forward with a slow smile, drew a curved crimson blade from his back, and unleashed a devastating arc of energy that cut 3 razor beaks mid-flight. His movements were too smooth, too sharp. Kai narrowed his eyes. He was using a technique he hadn't shown before, something dangerous. Another explosion rocked the field. A boar charged the crystal. This one was fast, too fast. Kai leapt forward, intercepting with a shoulder roll and plunging his blade deep into its side. It thrashed violently, tossing him into the sand. Pain burst across his ribs. But the blade had struck deep. Zhao finished the job with a double arrow to the skull. Kai coughed, rolled over and stood slowly. Blood dripped from his side. Ling Wei was already there, pressing a small restorative patch to his ribs. You're reckless, she said softly. I had to stop it. Don't stop breathing doing it. Wave 2 complete. Score update, high efficiency. Crowd favor, increasing. Crystal damage, 0%. But then the lights dimmed. The crowd hushed. A deep growl echoed from below. Wave 3, initiating, Tier 3 magical beast deployed. The arena shook. The north gate exploded open, and from the dust emerged a massive figure. A 3-headed scaled hound, each head snarling, eyes glowing gold. Its claws gouged stone with every step. A tri-spine Cerberax. Tier 3. High tier even for trained adventurers. Focus fire, someone shouted. The beast ignored most of the examinees and charged the crystal directly. Kai's blood ran cold. He ran forward without hesitation, activating Shadow Fang form, spinning past a swipe, slashing deep along its flank. One head turned and spewed fire. Another swiped with jagged teeth. Zhao's arrow struck one eye. Ling Wei unleashed a technique scroll, Stormline Sigil, that paralyzed the hind leg for 2 seconds. Kai climbed its back, slamming his blade into the center of its spine. The beast roared, bucking violently. He held on with one hand, blade wedged deep. Then Yunfei appeared in a blur, launching a strike of crimson energy from across the field, void razor arc, cleaving into the beast's chest. The crowd stood. The Cerberax collapsed with a final shudder. Silence. Then thunderous applause. The university elders stood from the observation box. Wave 3, concluded. Crystal integrity, 86%. Surviving candidates, 24 of 30. Kai's heart pounded. His system pinged. Arena of Beasts, Phase 1 complete. Total kills, 16. Damage taken, moderate. Contribution rating, exceptional. Technique usage, efficient. Personal score, rank 4 of 30. Advancement, approved. He breathed out. Zhao appeared beside him, grinning. We lived. Ling Wei nodded. Barely. Yunfei stood across the field, cleaning his blade, gaze fixed on Kai. The next test would not be a team battle. It would be something much harder. The Grand Coliseum emptied slowly after the first trial, the crowd still buzzing with excitement and speculation. Rumors spread like fire through the outer ring of the city. about the three-headed beast, about Yun Fei's crimson arc, and about the unknown boy with no backing who fought it head-on. Kai didn't hear any of it. Back in the examinee's recovery chambers, he sat cross-legged on a cushion, shirt off, ribs wrapped in thick gauze. His hands trembled faintly from adrenaline that hadn't fully worn off. His system still displayed faint health warnings, but he ignored them. What filled his mind wasn't pain, it was precision. He mentally replayed every step from the battle. Each iron echo movement, each shadow fang slash, each breath between dodges. Not to praise himself, he reviewed them to dissect every weakness. Too slow on the second dodge, he muttered. Right side slash open my flank. Too shallow on the Cerberax's back strike. A soft knock interrupted him. Ling Wei entered carrying a flask and two small scrolls. Her sleeves were rolled up, and she had a thin bandage wrapped around her left forearm. You're obsessing, she said simply, handing him the flask. Drink. Replenishment tea. Calms nerves, boosts energy flow. Kai nodded and drank. It was bitter and grounding. Zhao entered moments later, still limping slightly from a tail swipe he caught during Wave 2. He tossed himself onto a cushion with a dramatic groan. If this is only Phase 1, I don't want to know what Phase 2 looks like. Ling Wei unrolled one of the scrolls. Technique and will trial. That's next. Kai looked up. They test both. She nodded. One after the other. You demonstrate a technique in front of a council of university elders. Then you face the will forge. Zhao blinked. The what? The will forge is a spiritual trial, Ling Wei explained. You enter a constructed illusion of your fears, regrets, or failures. It tests your mental endurance and clarity. Failing doesn't injure your body, but it can break your mind. Perfect, Zhao muttered. Just what I needed. Psychological trauma. Kai stood slowly, stretching his shoulders. We'll pass it. You say that like you're already sure, Ling Wei said quietly. I'm not. But we've come too far to stop here. That evening, an announcement echoed across the Coliseum grounds. Phase 2 will begin tomorrow at sunrise. Candidates must appear at the Inner Circle Pavilion for registration and assignment. No weapons permitted. Techniques only. Prepare your mind and spirit. Kai returned to the orphanage that night. He sat beneath the moonlight, his new short blade laid before him, and meditated. His thoughts were clear, controlled. He replayed every moment of training under Master Lin. Every hour in the pressure field. Every strike of shadow fang form. Every breath of iron echo step. Then he activated his system. Kai, status panel. Level, 6. Experience, 120 of 350. Strength, 14. Health, 13. Spirituality, 11. Energy, 11. Agility, 13. Free attribute points, 2. Techniques. Iron Echo Step, Intermediate. Shadow Fang Form, Intermediate. Meditation Focus, Passive, Beginner. Temporary buffs, none. Coins, 64. He placed 1 point into spirituality and 1 into agility. His system responded with a warm pulse. Attribute boost confirmed. He was ready. The next morning, the Inner Circle Pavilion rose from the Coliseum's center like a temple. Carved white stone pillars, rune-etched floors, and floating crystal lanterns that cast soft light on the arena below. Only 24 candidates remained. Each candidate stood in silence before a long dais, where 5 university elders sat behind a glowing spirit barrier. They observed without expression, each holding a jade tablet that recorded the results. Instructor Demon Trask stood off to the side, arms crossed. Candidates, he called. You have one chance to demonstrate your worth. Display your chosen technique. Only those who exceed the minimum threshold will proceed. One by one names were called. Kai watched carefully. The first was a fire specialist from the Silver Cloud sect. He conjured a flaming chain, wrapped it in a spiral, and launched it like a drill. The elders murmured. The jade tablet pulsed gently. He passed. Another student summoned 4 spectral hands using a spiritual puppet technique. A girl from the Bronze Fist clan crushed stone with her fists alone, her aura flaring visibly. Then, Candidate 72. Step forward. The murmurs began again. No clan. He's the orphan. The one who fought the Cerberax? Kai stepped into the center of the platform, bowing low. The lead elder, a silver-bearded man in a white robe, raised a hand. State your techniques. Kai spoke clearly. Shadow Fang blade form and iron echo step. Begin when ready. He closed his eyes. Breathed once. Twice. Then moved. His first step was silent, iron echo step accelerating him forward without disrupting the ground. He flowed into a spinning arc, his hand mimicking the blade's path. Shadow Fang form turned into a three-part slash pattern, each strike punctuated by ghost trails of spiritual energy. He moved as if in battle, attacking an invisible enemy, dodging a ghostly counterstrike, stepping back and lunging again. The fourth sequence ended with a final spinning cut, sharp, decisive. He stopped in a low crouch, hand extended in a still frozen strike. The air shimmered around him from the pressure he had released. Silence. Then a pulse from the elder's tablets. Bright. Brighter than any before. The lead elder nodded. Candidate 72, passes. A few scattered claps broke out from the watching instructors. Kai returned to his place, heart pounding, but calm. Zhao followed later, performing an archer's focus technique, breath in the palm and passed with narrow marks. Ling Wei performed an energy-threading technique, guiding spiritual strings through 7 levitating orbs in perfect formation. Her score pulsed nearly as brightly as Kai's. Then came Yunfei. He stepped forward slowly, gaze locked on the elders. State your technique, the elder said. Yunfei smiled. Void Razor Arc, supplemented by Blood Gate Pulse. Several elders straightened in their seats. He moved with terrifying calm, drawing energy from his core and building a red-sheened wave. The Void Razor Arc spun from his hands, cleaving through 3 stone pillars conjured by the exam instructors. Then his body flared with crimson light, Blood Gate Pulse, an illegal amplifying technique. A forbidden art. The crowd gasped. The technique faded. One elder whispered something into the other's minds via spiritual link. After a tense pause, the lead elder nodded. Candidate Yunfei, passes. But the murmurs continued. Kai narrowed his eyes. He'd seen that crimson glow during the first trial. After a short rest, the remaining candidates were taken to a circular meditation chamber beneath the pavilion. A ring of glowing stones surrounded a single raised platform, where each candidate would sit, alone, while their will forge trial began. In the will forge, the instructor said, your mind will be shown its greatest weakness. You must confront it, understand it, endure it. Those who break, fail. One by one, students entered the center. Some cried. Some shook. A few screamed. One student collapsed and did not rise. Then, Kai. He stepped onto the platform. Light surrounded him. And then, he was back in the orphanage. But it was burning. Flames licked the wooden beams. Smoke filled the air. Screams echoed, familiar voices. Mrs. Lawn. The younger kids. Zhao. Ling Wei. Even Master Lin. He ran into the building. Room after room burned. He saw shadows fall, one by one. Where were you? A voice whispered. You left us. You weren't strong enough. Kai collapsed to his knees. No. You talk of climbing high. But your steps are built on failure. He covered his ears. It's not real. Then why do you keep returning to the past? The voice became his own. He gasped. Then, he stood. No. The flames froze. I remember this pain. I remember being helpless. But I'm not helpless now. He stepped forward into the fire. Through the memories. I carry them with me, but they do not own me. The world shattered like glass. He opened his eyes in the chamber. The instructors were watching. The elder closest to him nodded. Candidate 72. Passed. Will forge trial complete. Mental endurance, high. Emotional resilience, above average. Spiritual core stability, exceptional. Advancement, approved. As Kai stepped out of the chamber, he saw Yunfei enter next. The two locked eyes. No words were needed. Only one trial remained, and it would not be shared. The morning of the final trial broke with a sky of burning gold. Thick clouds hovered above Azure Ridge, glowing orange with the light of the rising sun, as if the heavens themselves understood what the day meant. The Grand Colosseum was already overflowing. Nobles in silk robes sat beside armored commanders from the frontline defense corps. University elders took their positions high above the arena in skyboxes lined with silver and jade. Even the mayor of Azure Ridge was present, flanked by guards in blue and gold armor. The final trial wasn't just a test. It was a ceremony of succession, the moment when a new generation proved they were worthy of joining the ranks of the defenders of the Blue Planet. And at the heart of it all stood Kai. He stood in the staging corridor beneath the arena floor, surrounded by the 20 remaining examinees. Only 20 had survived the previous trials. From here, perhaps 10 would receive invitations. Fewer still would be remembered. Kai gripped the hilt of his short blade, the worn leather comforting against his fingers. He closed his eyes. No matter how many people were in the stands, no matter how loud the roars, he centered himself. His breath slowed. His spirit aligned. A low hum resonated from the walls, the arena barrier activating. Then the final announcement echoed across the sky, delivered by the grand voice of Azure Ridge Elder Varen, a man whose words were broadcast magically across the entire city. Citizens of Azure Ridge, witness now the final trial of the Azure Martial University entrance examination, the battle without mercy. The crowd erupted. This trial is simple. The remaining examinees will enter the arena, equipped with their weapons and techniques. The rules are as follows. No killing, no outside assistance, and no surrender. You fight until you drop or until the arena declares you unconscious. The last 10 standing will earn entry into Azure Martial University. The top 3 will receive personal mentorship from Inner Gate elders. The noise reached a deafening pitch. Kai barely heard it. His thoughts were singular. Survive. Stand. Succeed. The gates rumbled open. 20 warriors stepped into the arena floor. The terrain had changed again. The arena now resembled a massive battlefield. Broken stone, collapsed ruins, scattered debris, shallow pits, and 4 raised platforms at cardinal points. Torches burned blue with spiritual flame at each corner. Kai emerged near the south side. Zhao appeared from the east. Ling Wei from the north. Yun Fei stood at the west, his blade already unsheathed, his eyes locked on Kai from the moment they entered. The barrier sealed. A loud gong rang once. Then the battle began. Instant chaos. A student from the Bronze Flame sect launched a chain whip at another's legs. Another examinee fired off a flurry of flame bursts, scorching the ground and forcing 2 others to retreat. Zhao immediately climbed a tower, raining arrows with pinpoint accuracy. Kai moved low and fast. He didn't attack immediately. He read the battlefield, watching who rushed in recklessly and who hung back. His first strike came from behind, disarming a spear wielder with a quick iron echo step and knocking them unconscious with the hilt of his blade. 1 down. He ducked a fireball, rolled behind a boulder, and intercepted a brawler charging toward Ling Wei. She flicked 2 daggers toward his side. Kai caught them, spun, and used them to land a perfect cross-strike. 2 down. The crowd roared. Kai's system pulsed softly with real-time updates. Final trial, active. Standing candidates 18. Confirmed subdues, 2. Injury level, low. Energy flow, stable. Across the battlefield, Yun Fei moved like a shadow. His strikes were brutal, precise and fueled by that same dangerous red aura Kai had seen before. A forbidden enhancement. Kai knew it. So did the elders. But Yun Fei was too fast, too strong, and his opponents fell one after another. 15 left. Then 13. Kai faced 2 students from the Gale Temple. Both struck in unison, one with twin daggers, the other with a wind-infused staff. He activated Iron Echo Step. His feet barely touched the ground as he weaved between the strikes. He took a shallow cut across the arm but closed the distance, disarming the dagger user and countering with a spinning knee to the stomach. He flipped the staff wielder and slammed them into the dirt. 4 down. His breath came heavier now. He ducked into cover. Ling Wei appeared beside him. You all right? Still here, Kai said between breaths. Yun Fei's already taken out 5. I know. I saw it. He's different. He's using a forbidden art. Ling Wei didn't argue. She only nodded. Then they split again, the battlefield changing with each second. 10 candidates remaining. The arena rumbled. Stones shifted. New phase, one-on-one duels. The announcement echoed across the stands. The crowd gasped. Each examinee's token flashed in the air, lines connecting pairs. When the lines formed, Kai saw it clearly. Kai versus Yun Fei. The arena trembled as platforms rose beneath their feet, carrying them to the central combat ring. A raised square of reinforced jadeite stone 20 meters wide, suspended in air by spiritual force. The noise fell to a hush. Every eye turned to the center. Yun Fei stood opposite Kai, his curved crimson blade already pulsing with energy. You've come far, he said, circling slowly. I didn't expect you to last this long. Kai didn't respond. But this is where it ends, Yun Fei continued. You can't climb into a world you weren't born into. I don't need your permission to rise, Kai said calmly. And I don't need your name. Yun Fei laughed. No, you'll only need a healer. The gong rang. Yun Fei struck first. His blade carved the air with red arcs, each swing enhanced with blood gate pulse. Kai dodged, sidestepped, countered with a swift iron echo movement, slicing across Yunfei's arm. But the crimson energy absorbed the blow. Yunfei grinned. Faster than before. Kai didn't waste breath. He attacked with a series of shadow fang sequences. Low slash, upward pivot, sidestep, reverse strike. The final arc landed a direct hit against Yunfei's shoulder. The crowd exploded. But Yunfei retaliated, his aura flaring. He unleashed Void Razor Arc, a blade-shaped crescent of blood energy that Kai barely deflected, the shockwave hurling him across the platform. Pain flared through Kai's ribs. He rolled to his feet, coughing blood. Just give up, Yunfei said. Kai rose. No. He activated both techniques at once, Iron Echo Step and Shadow Fang form, combining his movement and striking patterns into a fluid, evolving style. He vanished, reappeared behind Yunfei, struck twice, then feinted left and hit right. Strike, step, strike. Yunfei's blade caught the third attack. They locked. Why do you keep fighting? He growled. You don't belong here. Kai looked him in the eye. Because I know what it means to have nothing. Then he twisted. Using the last of his energy, he unleashed the final strike of Shadow Fang, Falling Echo, a spiraling, descending arc meant to cut through defense. His blade slammed into Yunfei's shoulder, knocking the air to the ground, blade clattering away. Yunfei tried to rise. He couldn't. The platform dimmed. A voice rang out. Duel complete. Victor, Kai. The crowd erupted. Even the university elders stood. Master Lin, watching from afar, said nothing, but his eyes glimmered with pride. Kai fell to his knees. Pain radiated through his body. He was bruised, bleeding, and barely conscious. But he had won. His system pinged. Final trial, complete. Rank, 2 of 20. University admission, granted. Special reward, Elder's mentorship, pending. New title unlocked, Challenger of the Gate. Bonus experience awarded, plus 800. Level up, level 7 reached. He smiled. Faint. Exhausted. But real. Above him the crowd still roared. But all he could hear was his heartbeat, slow and steady. He had made it. The arena was silent. For a single heartbeat, time stood still as the gates of the Grand Colosseum creaked open under the weight of destiny. Dust drifted in the golden shafts of morning light, and the breath of thousands of spectators hung in the air. Kai stepped forward. The heat from the sun baked the cracked stone beneath his feet, but it wasn't the weather that made him sweat. It was the presence, the crushing weight of legacy, expectation, and judgment, wrapped tightly into this final trial. Somewhere high above in the shaded observation tower, the hidden elder watched. He stood cloaked in the shadows of a private balcony, behind a layer of silencing talismans and illusionary veils. Few knew his name. Fewer had seen his face. But when he moved, even generals obeyed. Beside him stood the supreme commander of the Azure Ridge military, a broad-shouldered woman with skin like hammered bronze and eyes like sharpened obsidian. That one, the elder said softly, pointing toward Kai as the youth emerged from the gates. The commander glanced at the boy, then back toward the elder. You're sure? The elder did not answer directly. He simply nodded once and turned away. A subtle gesture, but everything in the arena changed. 20 candidates entered. Only 10 would leave with a place in the university. 3 would walk away as favored heirs of the future. Kai felt his blade vibrate slightly in its sheath, as if it too knew this would be the moment to make, or end, his journey. Yunfei walked a few paces ahead of him, crimson blade already unsheathed, his aura controlled and cold. Zhao Yu and Ling Wei flanked the opposite end of the field. Their faces were tight with focus, but when they glanced toward Kai, he nodded once, and they nodded back. The battlefield was unlike anything they'd fought on before. It was a massive stone arena broken into 4 distinct zones. Zone 1, shattered ruins with crumbling pillars and raised platforms. Zone 2, the dust crater, a sandy basin filled with shifting terrain and poor footing. Zone 3, forest edge where spectral trees and illusionary traps warped line of sight. Zone 4, the high plateau, a jagged cliff rising above the others, where control meant dominance. Each candidate was assigned a starting zone. Kai appeared in Zone 3. The forest hummed with quiet menace, the trunks of spectral trees whispering illusions of beasts and warriors long dead. Shadows flickered at the edge of vision. He could feel the tension in his bones. His token pulsed at his chest. Begin. A horn sounded from the upper tower. Without warning, the spiritual field dropped, and chaos exploded into motion. Across the battlefield, power surged. The air filled with sparks, wind, flame, and steel. Kai activated Iron Echo Step, weaving between the trees with smooth, calculated motion. He did not rush toward battle. He listened, watched, waited. From behind a tree he saw two students clashing, one with a long glaive, the other using chain-link throwing knives. The fight was brutal, unpolished, panicked. Kai moved like a phantom. He slid in between a missed swing and a hasty dodge, using the first part of Shadow Fang form to disarm the glaive user. A knee to the stomach dropped them. He parried the knives, advanced close, and dropped the second student with a precise pommel strike. Two opponents subdued. System message: opponents subdued, 2. Score logged, contribution tier. Efficient. He moved on. High above, the hidden elder leaned forward slightly in his chair. His voice was low, nearly lost in the wind. Interesting. He does not overreach. He reads. Waits. Moves only when the battle is already decided. The commander glanced again. He's smart. But smarts don't always win. The elder's mouth curled in the faintest of smiles. No. But they live longer. Down below, the field was narrowing. In Zone 1, Yun Fei cut a path through 3 challengers. His blade burned with red energy, enhanced by the forbidden blood gate pulse. One swing cleaved a pillar in half. Another left a trail of scorched ground. Spectators gasped. Some cheered. The hidden elder's brow furrowed. That one. The Yun boy. What is he using? Modified legacy technique, the commander said. Enhanced. Illegal. And still no one stops him? The commander gave a slow shrug. His family has weight. And he hasn't killed anyone, yet. Back in Zone 3, Kai's breath came heavier. He had taken out 4 opponents now, but his spiritual reserves were thinning. Even with meditation focus, the bursts from Iron Echo and Shadow Fang were costly. He knelt behind a fallen tree, pulled a recovery pill from his pouch and bit down. The bitter taste flooded his mouth, but warmth flowed through his limbs. A shadow moved. Kai leapt backward. A blast of frost struck the log where he just crouched, freezing it solid. He turned. Rain Leovar, the top student of the Silver Mist Academy, floated above the forest floor, ice crystals spinning around her. I've heard about you, she said, her voice calm but sharp. The orphan who's clawed his way up. Kai tightened his grip on his blade. You here to test me? I'm here to pass, she replied, launching forward. She moved like a storm. Spikes of frost, shimmering illusions, swirls of defensive mist. Kai dodged 3 attacks, used Iron Echo to shift left, then closed the gap. His blade met hers and the clash rang like thunder. Her ice tried to wrap around his wrists, but Kai twisted and slammed the butt of his blade into her ribs. She gasped, stepped back, but not fast enough. He dropped low, swept her legs, and hit her with the final strike of the second Shadow Fang sequence. She collapsed, unconscious. System message: opponent subdued, 5. Stamina low, 33% remaining. Aura strengthening active, 5 minutes left. From above, the hidden elder exhaled quietly. 5 wins. No wasted motion. No arrogance. He turned slightly to the commander. Give him a real test. The commander frowned. You're interfering now. No, the elder said. I'm clarifying. Moments later, a system message rang across all tokens. Modified trial directive. Sudden boss encounter deployed. A section of the ground in the center of the field cracked. Smoke poured from the fissures. Then it emerged. A simulated rift beast, a creature formed of corrupted magic, dark limbs, a skeletal body covered in shadowy bone plates and long bladed arms. It let out a screech that shook the Colosseum. The crowd froze. This was not part of the original design. In the tower, the head examiner turned toward the hidden elder, but said nothing. The elder simply watched. Kai felt the shift in the ground before he saw the monster. He turned, eyes wide, just as the rift beast stepped into his zone, its body emanating death. Its eyes locked onto him. Seriously? Kai muttered. He rolled to the side as the beast lunged, its bladed arms smashing into the ground where he had just stood. Dust and stone flew. He activated Iron Echo Step, blinking behind the beast and slashing across the lower spine. The blade sparked but didn't pierce deep. The beast whirled unnaturally fast. A claw struck Kai across the shoulder, sending him flying through a pillar. Pain flared. His vision blurred. He rolled to his feet, bleeding heavily now. He had no choice. Kai dug deep, pulling every ounce of spiritual power into Shadow Fang form, combining it with Iron Echo in rapid succession. He moved like a blur, slashes from impossible angles, rolls between death strikes. He cut into the creature's knee, then its flank, then launched up its back and drove the blade into its shoulder. The beast howled but didn't fall. It struck back. Kai ducked once but not twice. A claw tore across his chest. He collapsed, coughing blood. The beast raised its arm for the final blow. Then an arrow struck its eye. Another. A third. Zhao stood on a ledge above, bow blazing with light. Then a dagger flew in, coated with a volatile seal. It exploded on impact. Ling Wei appeared from the mist, hair disheveled, eyes wide. Together they struck, Kai from below, Zhao from above, Ling Wei from the side. The rift beast screeched. And fell. Ash and smoke spiraled upward as it collapsed. The Colosseum erupted into cheers. A horn sounded. Trial complete. System message, final trial complete. Survivors, 10. Kai, rank 2 of 20. Bonus award, hidden trial completion, rift beast defeat. New title, The Challenger of Shadows. University entry, granted, special recommendation tier. From the shadows above, the hidden elder watched Kai stumble, bleeding, into the light. He whispered, so only the commander heard. He's not just a survivor. He's a forge. The commander nodded slowly. I'll see that he's tested again, she said. No, the elder said. From now on, he trains under me. Kai didn't remember the cheering. He didn't remember the end of the battle, the triumphant flare of his token, or even the moment the simulated rift beast dissolved into light. What he did remember was the cold. Not the icy kind, but the kind that spread inward from the ribs, the hollow, numbing cold that followed, pushing past his limits. The Colosseum spun around him as he staggered forward, blood soaking through the tears in his uniform. His blade felt like it weighed 10,000 pounds. Every breath was a battle. Hands caught him before he collapsed. Zhao Yu's familiar voice echoed, too loud and too distant at once. Got you, brother? And then darkness closed in. He awoke in silence. Not in the medical tents. Not in the recovery chambers. But in a dimly lit room, lined with runes that pulsed faintly on the walls like a heartbeat. The air was warm, charged with something unseen. Kai sat up slowly, feeling clean bandages across his chest and arms. His spiritual core still ached, but the sharp pain was gone. He checked for his blade, gone but not stolen. His token, however, still glowed faintly at his waist. Then he noticed the man sitting at the far end of the room. An old man. A very old man. He wore plain gray robes, faded from time, but carried the stillness of a mountain. His white hair was tied back with a single iron clasp. His face was marked by lines, but none of them seemed weak. His presence felt ancient, quiet, and dangerous. Kai didn't move. The elder looked up. His voice was calm but firm. You fought well. Kai swallowed. Who are you? The elder did not answer the question. Instead he asked, do you know how long you were unconscious? Kai shook his head. 4 hours. In that time the university posted final rankings. The spectators cleared out. Yun Fei has been taken into private training by his clan. Kai leaned forward. And me? You placed second, the elder said. A commoner, no backing, no bloodline. And you nearly killed a tier 3 simulated rift beast on your own. Kai's jaw clenched. That beast, that wasn't part of the trial? No, the elder said simply. It wasn't. Kai stared. Then who? I did. Silence fell over the room like a dropped curtain. You sent it? I ordered it released, the elder replied. I asked Commander Trask to initiate a hidden directive during the trial. I wanted to see what you would do. Kai stood slowly, his muscles protesting. Why? To test your response, the elder said. To watch your fear. Or your fury. Or your failure. Kai's voice lowered. And what did you see? The elder finally looked him in the eye. I saw potential. Elsewhere, in the University Council Tower, several inner gate elders debated around a floating map of the Grand Colosseum. You let the hidden elder interfere again, one said sharply. It was not interference, another replied. It was observation. And it revealed things none of our metrics could. The rift beast nearly killed him. And yet he stood. Even with no bloodline, no legacy technique, no ancestral weapon, he stood. A quiet murmur passed through the council. Finally, the head examiner spoke. Then we give him the trial rank he earned. But we keep watch. Any boy who rises this fast is either a blessing or a storm. Back in the hidden chamber, Kai stood across from the elder, who now paced slowly along the edge of the rune circle. Do you know what it means to be chosen by the university? The elder asked. Kai remained silent. It means discipline, purpose, sacrifice. You will train where others rest. You will bleed while others celebrate. You will be broken, so that you may stand taller than anyone who came before. The elder turned, his gaze hardening. I will offer you something most students never see, a place in the hidden path of the Azure vaults. A shadow curriculum passed down to only one student per generation. Kai's mouth went dry. Why me? Because I've seen too many collapse beneath talent, the elder said. You may lack the lineage, but you have the will. He stepped closer. I will test you again. You may fail. You may fall. But if you endure, you will be forged into something this world cannot ignore. Kai met his gaze. And if I say no? Then you return to the public training halls. You'll become stronger than most. Perhaps even famous. But you will always wonder what you could have been. A long pause. Then Kai bowed slowly and deeply. I'll walk the path. The elder nodded once. Then rest tonight. Tomorrow we begin. Later that night, Kai stood outside the Colosseum gates, staring up at the stars. The celebration had died down. Zhao and Ling Wei had returned to their families for the evening. He was alone, but for the first time not lonely. His token pulsed again. New text appeared. Martial Ascension System, major update detected. Hidden path unlocked. Azure Vault curriculum. Trial tier adjusted. Elite, mentor assigned. Mentor, classified, level 6 clearance. Personal assessment. Physical condition, stable. Spiritual core, recovering. Potential, expanding. Recommended directive. Prepare for high-level advancement. Kai smiled faintly. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. The first lesson was pain. Kai stood alone in the chamber of reflection, a circular training room buried beneath the university's main campus. The walls pulsed faintly with runes of silence, isolation, and focus. This place wasn't listed on any student map. Most instructors didn't even know it existed. He wore a sleeveless tunic soaked in sweat, his muscles sore from the previous night's recovery, his breathing sharp but steady. Across from him, the elder stood with his hands folded behind his back. He had not introduced himself by name. He had not given Kai a single word of praise or comfort. Only commands. Again. Kai lunged forward, blade flashing in the artificial light. He spun into a low cut, switched directions and struck with the second sequence of Shadow Fang form. The elder stepped aside with effortless grace, his hand flicking out like a whisper. 2 fingers struck Kai's wrist, redirecting his attack. A split second later, Kai's blade was on the floor, and the elder's hand hovered just above his throat. Again. Kai retrieved the blade in silence. They had repeated this exercise 67 times. Far above the training chambers, Yun Fei knelt before a stone altar deep within his family's ancestral shrine. Thick incense filled the chamber, coiling around the statues of martial ancestors whose eyes seemed to follow him. Before him lay a sealed scroll, glowing faintly with internal flame. Behind him his father, Yun Tianhai the patriarch, spoke in a low voice. This is your inheritance. The Crimson Pulse Sutra. Sealed for 3 generations. The cost of opening it will be yours to bear. Yun Fei didn't hesitate. He pressed his palm against the scroll, blood dripping from his fingers onto the surface. It opened with a hiss of fire. Back in the university depths, Kai fell again. This time he landed harder. His ribs flared with pain. His blade skittered across the ground, coming to rest at the elder's feet. The elder did not mock, did not insult. He simply waited. Kai rose slowly. His chest heaved, sweat pouring down his spine, but his eyes remained clear. The elder tilted his head slightly. What do you lack? Kai's breath came rough. Strength. No, the elder's voice was like wind on stone. You lack intent. Kai frowned. Intent. Your body moves, your blade strikes, but your mind still wonders if you belong here. Kai stared. The elder pointed to his chest. Until your blade reflects your conviction, every technique you use is borrowed power. Not your own. He turned. Pick up your weapon. Kai did. His grip tightened. Now again, the elder said. But this time, strike with the full weight of who you are. Not for me. Not for a test. Not to prove anything. Just strike. Yun Fei screamed as the Crimson Pulse Sutra forced itself into his core. His body twisted, veins glowing red, blood boiling. Visions flooded his mind, ancient warriors, rivers of fire, battles waged in silence and shadow. A voice whispered, "Consume the weak." He saw Kai's face in his mind, calm, steady, defiant. His hands clenched. Kai moved. This time the blade did not swing mechanically. It did not follow steps by rote. He stepped with memory, of the orphanage, of hunger, of the first time he held a weapon, of the first kill that made his hands shake. He slashed with the weight of every loss, every scar, every step that brought him here. And for the first time, the elder did not dodge. Their blades met. Steel rang out, a sharp, resounding echo in the silent chamber. Kai staggered back, panting. The elder's arm bled slightly from the contact. A thin line of crimson marked his sleeve. The elder looked down at it, then back up, and smiled. A rare, quiet thing. Finally, he said. That night, Kai was given access to the vault of the first echo, a hidden repository of ancient martial scrolls reserved for those deemed worthy by the unseen. Inside were hundreds of sealed cases, each engraved with the name of a warrior long gone. His system pulsed as he stepped inside. Azure Vault access granted, subclass tree unlocked. Choose one. 1. Ghost Blade Initiate, Focus, Stealth, Piercing, Burst Damage Arts. 2. Spirit Forged Sentinel, Focus, Defensive Forms, Counter Techniques, Sustained Combat. 3. Wormbrand Disciple, Focus, Fire Imbued Forms, Destruction, Dual Blade Synergy. 4. Echo Weaver, Suppressed, Locked due to prior path interference. 5. Edge of Silence, Hidden Option. Focus, Adaptable Momentum-Based Combat, Gains power through consecutive engagements. Kai hesitated, then chose Edge of Silence. The scroll in the center of the chamber lifted, hovered toward him, and unrolled itself. Lines of ink burned themselves into his mind, fluid, reactive, brutal. He collapsed to his knees as the knowledge flooded him. Elsewhere, Yun Fei rose from the ritual chamber, his body steaming with internal heat. His aura had changed. Gone was the calculated elegance of his previous form. Now it was wild, scarlet, hungry. His father approached, placing a hand on his shoulder. What do you feel? Yun Fei's eyes glowed faintly, like fire waiting to be unleashed. 3 days later, Kai stood at the edge of a cliff on the outskirts of Azure Ridge. Below him lay the sprawling academy. Behind him stood the elder. Your final test before we enter Phase 2 training, the elder said. You will survive for 2 nights in the Rift Shadow Vale, unarmed, unaided. Kai didn't flinch. What lives there? Corrupted things, the elder replied. Remnants of the first invasion. Mistaken beasts. Twisted men. And yourself. Kai nodded once. He stepped off the edge and descended the rocky path into the cursed valley. As he vanished into the fog, the elder spoke softly. To grow the blade, you must break the stone. He turned and walked away. Fog hung low over the Rift Shadow Vale like a living thing. Thick and pale, it slithered between twisted trees and jagged stone, carrying the scent of moss, wet iron, and something much older, something rotten and ancient. Somewhere in the distant dark, a beast howled, not with hunger but with madness. Kai crouched behind a half-rotted tree trunk, heart steady despite the aching of his legs and the blood crusted along his temple. His eyes flicked from shadow to shadow. He had been here for 1 full night already. Alone. Unarmed. Hunted. His limbs were scraped raw. His right foot was swollen. He hadn't eaten more than dried root and fungus for 24 hours. But he was alive. More importantly, he was learning. He had learned how to sense corrupted spiritual flow. He'd learned how to use a sharpened stone as a blade. He'd learned that some of the creatures down here didn't bleed, but screamed when touched with fire. He'd learned to listen. He had also learned something more unsettling. He was being watched. High above the vale, on the western cliffs, a solitary figure stood with her arms crossed behind her back. She wore a dark cloak, the kind used to break magical detection, and carried no insignia. But anyone who saw her would know her by the way she stood, the tension of her shoulders, the sharpness of her breath. She was Supreme Commander Vera Kale, the strongest military presence in Azure Ridge and the personal enforcer of the Hidden Elder's will. She did not enjoy watching children bleed. But she did believe in the fires of hardship. Status, she said without turning. A masked soldier behind her answered, Target has survived 12 skirmishes, down 2 corrupted beasts. He fashioned a spear from scavenged fongbone. No external help required. Spiritual readings stable. She nodded once. I'll test him personally. Back in the Vale, Kai awoke from a short, dreamless rest to silence. Too silent. He moved low, sensing the absence of the usual tension in the air, the silence not of peace, but of something greater holding its breath. Then the ground cracked. A shape dropped from the canopy above like a bolt of thunder. Kai rolled to the side. A woman landed, blade drawn, stance perfect. She didn't speak. She attacked. Kai raised his makeshift weapon instinctively, and it shattered under the blow. He ducked, rolled, picked up a jagged stone and threw it. She sidestepped and countered with a sweeping leg kick that sent him tumbling into a shallow ravine. He coughed, bones rattled, but stood. The woman advanced again. He could feel her aura now, controlled, lethal, trained. This wasn't a beast. This was a master. Who? He tried to say, but she struck again. This time he used edge of silence. He had no weapon, but his body remembered. He dodged the strike. Moved inside her reach. Elbow to her ribs. Knee to her thigh. A push-pivot step to break her stance. She smirked as she adjusted midair and landed cleanly. Initiative, she murmured. Good. Then she vanished. Appeared behind him. He didn't turn, just dropped, rolled, grabbed a rock and jabbed upward. She caught his wrist. Forced him down. Pinned him. And then whispered in his ear. You lasted longer than most. I was told you would. Kai's pulse thudded. You're testing me? Not anymore, she said. Now I'm training you. 1 hour later. Kai sat by a small campfire lit with spiritual flame, bandages tight around his ribs. Vera sat across from him, casually sharpening a throwing knife. You've got the instincts of a survivor, she said without looking up. But survival doesn't win wars. Kai nodded slowly. So why send me here? Because war is coming. She glanced at him. The rift isn't closed. It was never closed. The beast you fought in the trial wasn't just a simulation. It was a messenger. Kai stiffened. A real rift creature? She nodded. Corrupted. Altered. But real. Kai's thoughts spun. Then why test me with it? Because the hidden elder believes the next generation will decide the survival of this world. And he thinks you might be one of the few capable of standing when the gates reopen. Vera stood. She tossed him a short steel dagger. Consider this a gift. And a promise. Kai caught it. You'll return to the academy tomorrow, she said. You'll tell no one I was here. And in 1 month's time, you'll be summoned again. To where? Kai asked. To the front, Vera said. Back at the university. The hidden elder stood on the rooftop of the library watching the stars. Beside him floated a crystal slate, showing Kai's path through the veil, his vitals, his technique logs. He's learning quickly, the elder murmured. A ghostly voice answered from the darkness behind him. But will he be ready when the world breaks again? The elder's face remained unreadable. He must be. Or we will all fall. System update. New perk acquired. Survival combat instinct passive. Increased reflex speed when health is below 30%. Resistance to fear-based aura fields. Environmental awareness enhanced. Azure Vault access expanded. Access to advanced scroll, step between shadows. Hidden trial invitation pending. Kai stepped out of the veil 2 hours before dawn. The university gates opened silently before him. He looked up at the looming towers. His blade at his side. His eyes burning. He wasn't the same boy who had entered. He was becoming something else. The doors to the obsidian archives opened without a sound. Kai stepped into the chamber cautiously, his footsteps echoing faintly across the polished black floor. Tall pillars spiraled upward into darkness. Runes glowed dimly along the walls, wards older than the university itself, humming with sealed knowledge. This place wasn't on any map. No students were allowed here. Only one man had the authority to summon anyone to the obsidian archives. Kai already knew who. The hidden elder waited at the far end, standing with hands clasped behind his back, facing a massive wall of floating scrolls and burning candles suspended midair. Without turning he spoke. You were supposed to take 3 days recovering. You returned in 2. Kai bowed respectfully. Commander Kale said I was ready. The elder finally turned. His gaze was sharp, but there was something different today, something softer in the corners of his eyes. You did well in Rift Shadow Vale, he said. Most break. Or die. Kai said nothing. The elder stepped closer. The path you're walking now is no longer just that of a student. It is the path of a soldier. A guardian. A shadow beneath the light. He raised a hand. A glowing orb floated toward Kai, filled with swirling images, monsters, soldiers, towers and flames. What do you know of the Shadow Court? Kai blinked. Nothing. The elder's voice dropped lower. Good. That means the university has done its job. He circled the orb slowly, his tone becoming sharp with memory. The Shadow Court was founded before the Azure Martial University, before the city itself. A secret council of warriors and scholars who saw the first rift, who sacrificed everything to keep the world from falling. Kai listened, eyes narrowed. They left behind weapons, vaults, legacies, and enemies. Not all of them were beasts. Some wore faces. Some wore robes of gold. The orb shifted, revealing the face of a familiar man, head examiner Murin, the same official who had judged the final trial. Kai frowned. He's part of it? No, the elder said. But he is one of many who have forgotten why the university was created. They think the world is at peace. That progress means stability. They blind themselves with pride. He paused. But the rift is not closed. And it is growing. Kai's blood went cold. The elder looked at him. I need eyes I can trust. Hands that aren't bound by politics or family legacy. A blade I can send into places the council dares not speak of. He raised a sealed scroll, etched with an ancient sigil of a closed eye and 3 downward-pointing swords. This is your first directive. Covert. Dangerous. Unrecognized. You will report to no one but me. Kai took the scroll. It burned cold in his palm. He nodded. I accept. The elder's expression didn't change, but something passed between them then. A shift. Kai was no longer just a student. He had become a piece on the elder's board. Elsewhere, in the depths of the Yun family stronghold, Yun Fei stood before a massive mirror, shirtless, his arms laced with crimson energy that pulsed like veins of fire. His reflection did not smile. It stared back at him with glowing red eyes, eyes not entirely his own. His father, Yun Tianhai, stood at a distance, watching with wary pride. The Crimson Pulse Sutra has taken hold, the patriarch said. You are now strong enough to lead the Yun family's younger generation into the next war. Yun Fei tilted his head. War? Tianhai stepped forward. Do you think the university trains warriors for peace? There are whispers of new cracks forming in the rift. Rumors of a force preparing from within. When the call comes, those with strength will rise. Those without will be dust. Yun Fei's fingers flexed. He saw Kai's face again. And he knew he needed more. Later that night, Kai stood at the top of a tower overlooking the inner courtyard of the university. He opened the scroll. Inside was a map, marked with glowing runes leading into a part of the campus most avoided. Spire 13, a sealed research building from the early war era. It had been closed for decades due to unstable artifacts. The directive was clear. Investigate anomalous activity in Spire 13. Engage only if provoked. Do not alert university staff. Objective: locate source of signal. Clearance: level 0, operative eyes only. Kai slipped into the shadows. Spire 13 loomed like a broken tower, windows shattered, doors chained with half-faded wards. Runes of warning crackled faintly, but they were old, weak. Kai whispered the incantation the elder had taught him. The seals dissolved. Inside, the air was thick with dust and magic. Old machines lined the walls, crystal arrays, scorched runes, shattered constructs. The remnants of forgotten projects. Then he felt it. A pulse. Not like the system's messages. Not like a beast's aura. It was deeper. Calling. He moved toward it, descending rusted stairs into the tower's heart. The walls grew darker. Colder. Then he saw it. A floating crystal in the center of the room, chained with 12 binding seals, each flickering as though fighting against something inside. As he stepped closer, a voice entered his mind. Breaker. Seeker. Echo. Kai flinched. The voice was ancient, layered, almost familiar. He reached toward the crystal, and the seals burst outward. A shockwave slammed into him, hurling him into the wall. He groaned, body aching, and looked up as smoke and shadow coiled from the crystal. A shape stepped forward. Not a beast. Not a man. But a memory made flesh. It looked at him with glowing eyes. You are not ready, it said. Then it attacked. Kai rolled, evading the first strike, a pulse of shadow that sliced through the air like glass. He activated Edge of Silence, letting his body flow into reactive defense. His blade flashed, steel meeting ethereal claw. They fought through the ancient chamber, each blow shaking the foundations. The shadow figure whispered names, old names, like echoes from the past. Miran. Solon. Thea. Kairos. Kai ducked low, drove his blade up, and struck the figure's chest. It dissipated, reforming behind him. Trap. He twisted, slashing again. It shattered into light. And vanished. Only the crystal remained, now dormant. Kai staggered forward and touched it. This time there was no pain. Only understanding. And a whisper. Come find me. Back in the obsidian archives. The elder stood before a blank mirror, watching the air shimmer. Kai appeared behind him, robes scorched, eyes wide. You sent me into a sealed site. Yes, the elder said. And now we know more than we did yesterday. Kai stepped forward. That thing, it knew my name. The elder turned. Good. Kai blinked. Good? The elder's gaze was like cold steel. Because that means it remembers. And if the rift remembers you, then you were always meant to fight it. System update. New subclass unlocked, rift marked, unstable. Partial resistance to corrupted energy. Dreams may contain visions. Increased detection range of rift anomalies. Directive complete. Level 0 mission, Spire 13 Recon. New rank, Hidden Operative, Tier 1. Kai left the archives in silence, the stars high above watching him with distant, indifferent light. He didn't yet know what he was becoming. But he knew one thing. Whatever lived in the rift was waiting for him. And he would not run. The wilderness beyond Azure Ridge had no name. Not officially, at least. Old maps marked it only with fading ink. Outer Ridge number 3, unsecured. Generations ago, it had been a battlefield during the early rift incursions. Now, the world had mostly forgotten it, except for the monsters that still lurked there. Kai stood at the edge of the protective boundary field, just beyond the city's final outpost. Behind him, the stone towers of Azure Ridge faded into morning haze. Ahead, the trees grew wild, tangled, and dark with unknowns. He wore a reinforced travel tunic, light enough to move in but dense enough to stop claws. A half-filled rucksack rested against his hip, containing rations for 7 days, a basic survival knife, a Flintstone kit, and a long cloak that doubled as a blanket. His sword, old but cared for, hung at his side. The hidden elder's words echoed in his mind. You must go alone. No escort. No contact. No help. If you return stronger, you will enter the university as more than a student. You will enter as a force. He had nodded at the time, but now, with no one around and the wild howling in the distance, he wondered if he had truly understood. Kai adjusted the strap across his chest, took one last look behind him, then stepped past the boundary rune. The air shifted. A weight settled on his shoulders, not just from the gravity of the mission but something unseen. As if the land itself had been waiting for someone to cross into it again. He made camp just before sundown on the first day, at the base of a gnarled cedar tree. The area had signs of ancient roads, worn cobblestones hidden beneath weeds, collapsed stone mile markers, the broken remnants of statues. He explored cautiously, setting perimeter threads from his cloak, simple trip alarms made of thin wire and soft bells. No beasts had attacked. But he didn't sleep. He couldn't. Not with that strange pressure in the air. It wasn't spiritual and it wasn't aura-based. It was aware. That night, in the dark, he heard the first whispers. Faint. Distant. They came not from the forest, but from within his thoughts. Do you remember why you fight? The rift remembers you, Kai. He snapped awake, heart pounding. No one was there. But something had stirred. Day 2. The forest turned from wild to hostile. As he pushed deeper, the trees grew closer together, twisting into unnatural angles. Light barely touched the mossy floor. Sounds came from everywhere, and nowhere. That's when he saw it. A fresh trail. Flattened leaves. A snapped branch, clawed instead of broken. He crouched low, eyes sharp, ears tuned. Then it emerged from the brush. A split-claw prowler, low to the ground, muscled like a tiger but scaled like a lizard. Its front limbs each bore 2 long, curved talons. It locked eyes with Kai instantly. He didn't run. He drew his blade. Let's see where I stand. The beast circled. Its breath came in low growls. Kai waited. Watched. Measured. Then it pounced. He rolled left, letting instinct guide him. The beast's claws slashed through air where his chest had been. He kicked off the tree and slashed, scoring a hit along its flank, but shallow. The beast twisted faster than expected and backhanded him with a claw. He flew back, skidded across moss and root, and coughed as blood rose in his throat. This wasn't a sparring match. This was survival. He stood, shaky but alive. Repositioned. Slowed his breathing. This time he didn't charge. He waited for the second lunge. When it came, he sidestepped, letting the beast's own weight carry it too far. He slashed down along the shoulder, driving deep, then rolled and stabbed low into the stomach as it twisted to retaliate. The beast screamed. Kai drove the blade harder. It thrashed once, then stopped. He collapsed beside it, panting. It took him nearly 2 hours to clean the wound, wrap his ribs, and carve away meat he could smoke. He used a hot rock pit and wrapped the meat in leaves, a trick Zhao had once taught him at the orphanage. That night, as the fire crackled and the wind picked up, he sat against a rock wall. The blood of the beast still stained his hands. He stared at them for a long time. "You can't stop now." The whisper again. This time it came not as fear, but clarity. Kai didn't sleep that night either. Not deeply. Every time his eyes closed, he felt the air vibrate. Not with sound. Not with aura. But something deeper, intent. Like the world itself was observing him through invisible eyes. He meditated to try to shake it off. Crossed legs. Slow breathing. Focused stillness. But the whispers only grew louder. "What will you become? You saw it, when the blade touched blood. We remember your name." Kai gritted his teeth and opened his eyes. "Not tonight," he whispered. Day 3. He moved at dawn, sticking close to elevated ridges where he could see the terrain. It wasn't long before he found the edge of an old battlefield. Rusted weapons. Split shields. Bone fragments sticking from collapsed armor. And the trees, half-burned, half-fused with metal. As if something had melted them during battle and left them like sculptures of grief. Here the whisper stopped. Here something else began. He crouched to examine a skeleton that still held a shattered staff. And that's when he heard the growl. Slow. Guttural. Kai rolled backward just as a razor-hide Nasha emerged from the nearby brush. Massive, boar-like, with plates of black stone armor running down its sides and a single hooked horn curling from its snout. Its eyes glowed with rift corruption, yellow and unnatural. It wasn't just wild. It was wrong. And it charged. Kai drew his blade, but his legs were heavy from exhaustion. He jumped left, narrowly dodging the horn, and slashed, but his sword bounced off the creature's plated hide. "Too thick," he muttered. The Nasha turned with shocking speed and charged again. This time he ran, not away but toward the ruins. He ducked behind a half-buried trebuchet, then rolled over broken weapons as the beast thundered after him. He reached the edge of a pit and waited. 3 seconds. Then he shouted, "Come on then." The beast roared and charged. At the last second, Kai dove aside. The razor hide fell into the pit with a thunderous crash, shattering wood and stone as it tumbled through the old siege weapon and landed upside down. Its legs kicked once, twice, then stopped. Kai lay on his back for a long moment, panting. "Still alive," he muttered. "Barely." His ribs screamed. His knuckles were scraped raw. His sword was chipped. But he'd survived. Again. That night, he made camp in the ruins of a small outpost tower, reinforcing the entry with scrap wood and placing noise alarms, shards of broken glass tied to fishing wire, around his perimeter. He boiled snow moss leaves and added fragments of meat to make a bitter stew. It tasted like ash. He ate every drop. Afterward, he sat near the fire, blade across his knees, staring at the flames. And then the whispers returned, but different. Not from outside. From within. 3 days. 2 beasts. No rest. "You still fear what's inside, don't you? That's why you fight like prey." Kai clenched his jaw. "Then show me," he whispered. The fire crackled louder. And in the embers for a moment he saw a figure. Himself. But not tired. Not bruised. Not breathing hard. No. This version stood tall, with knives floating silently behind him, blade glowing faintly in the dark. His eyes were sharp. Unafraid. Then it vanished. Kai sat alone again. Day 4. He woke to frost. Thin layers of it clung to his sleeves and hair. His breath misted in the cold air. He trained. Even sore, even tired, he went through the first 5 sequences of Shadow Fang form, slowly, perfectly. 4. Rotation. Blade recovery. He used smooth rocks to simulate pressure underfoot, forcing balance. He tied a stick between his elbows and practiced turning without letting it fall. He reinforced muscle memory. This wasn't for a battle. It was for himself. Later, he climbed a ridge and found a new region of the wild, a deep canyon that dipped into a shadowed basin. Fog rolled within it, strange and white-blue. His map showed nothing. But the whisper was stronger here. Calling. He descended. As he approached the canyon's heart, he found it, a broken shrine buried beneath vines, half-collapsed, forgotten. Stone carvings still clung to its foundation, robed figures meditating, eyes aglow, with symbols swirling around their heads. He stepped into the circle. Immediately the air thickened. A soundless pressure dropped around him. Kai dropped to a knee, breath crushed from his lungs. He gritted his teeth, muscles shaking. Every part of his body told him to flee. But he didn't. He planted one foot, then the other. Slowly he stood. And then, everything went black. In the dark he stood alone. No weapons. No light. No flame. Only the voice. Your mind is untrained. Your will is thin. Your thoughts betray you. You want power, but you fear what it will cost. Kai shouted into the void, then show me what it costs. Silence. Then, a flash of light. And in the distance he saw a box. Floating. Glowing. A spiritual ring. He reached for it. The dark tried to stop him. Flashes of the orphanage fire, Mrs. Land's fading voice, the crush of failure during his first combat exam. But he stepped through all of it. Hand outstretched. And touched it. Light exploded. He was back in the shrine. Still kneeling. But the ring was on his finger now, cool, weightless. And something inside it stirred. System update. You have acquired spiritual storage ring. Unknown grade. Contents detected. 1x mental strength cultivation scroll, level 1 to 3. 3x mind nourishing pills. 1x sealed weapon case. Mental signature sync, 34%. Unlock progress. Initial phase complete. Kai stood slowly, hand trembling. Something had changed. Not outside. Inside. The morning mist curled low over the canyon floor as Kai adjusted the strap of his pack and stepped away from the buried shrine. The spiritual ring on his right index finger pulsed with a slow warmth, as if aware it had been awakened after a long-forgotten sleep. Inside, it carried secrets he wasn't ready to face. Not yet. But the forest didn't care. The world kept moving and Kai had learned quickly, stillness invited death. He began to climb out of the canyon with slow, careful steps. The path was steep, slick with moss, and bordered by vines thick enough to coil around a man's throat. By midday, he reached a ridge where strange sunlight filtered through leaves above. He paused. Before him stretched a dense, unnatural wood, trees with spiraled trunks, vines that pulsed faintly with green light, and thick air filled with pollen that shimmered like dust. He checked his map. This section wasn't even listed. In the old records, there was only a warning carved on the stone milepost. Beware the grove that hunts. He moved carefully between the trees, every step placed with intent. The deeper he went, the more unnatural the place became. Birdsong vanished. The wind stilled. And yet, the trees shifted. Only when he turned away. Only in the corner of his eye. It was subtle, at first. A vine that had hung from one tree now dangled from another. A root he'd stepped over had changed shape. And then he saw it, half buried in the soil, a traveler's boot. Still attached to a skeleton, slumped beneath a tree. Kai crouched, searching for clues. No broken bones. No signs of violent struggle. Just stillness. He reached toward the ground near the body, and his hand brushed a vine. It snapped up, lashing toward his throat. Kai fell backward, blade out, slicing it clean in two. The forest screamed. Not with sound, but with pressure. Trees twisted. Vines lashed. Roots broke through the soil. And the grove awakened. Kai ran. Not out of fear, but because standing still meant being wrapped, crushed, or buried alive. He moved in curved paths, not straight lines. Recalled the maze techniques Lin had taught him. Behind him, trees reshaped the path. Vines closed gaps. Flowers bloomed, releasing clouds of sleep dust. Kai tied a torn strip of his sleeve around his mouth and narrowed his eyes. Then he saw it, a clearing ahead, protected by strange totems carved into stone. He lunged forward, slashed through two closing vines, and dove into the circle. Everything stopped. The air grew still. The trees froze. The grove did not enter the circle. Kai landed hard, breathing heavy. He stood coughing. Looked around. The totems pulsed faintly with runes. One word appeared on each, written in an ancient dialect he somehow understood. Stillness. Focus. Oh. Breath. It was a test. No. A training ground. He sat in the center of the circle, legs crossed. Closed his eyes. Focused on his breath. The world outside tried to intrude. Movement, rustling, shadows. But he sank deeper. Fell inward. Into memory. He was 12 again. Standing at the edge of the orphanage's vegetable garden. Rain poured. Thunder cracked. Mrs. Lan stood beside him, holding a broken umbrella with one hand, a wooden spoon in the other. "Why are you crying?" she asked. "Zhao beat me," he muttered, lip trembling. "He's faster. Stronger." Mrs. Lan smiled. "Maybe. For now." Kai frowned. "He always wins." She crouched beside him. "That only matters today. What matters more is what you're still willing to do, tomorrow." He opened his eyes. The grove was quiet. The ring pulsed. Inside he felt it, a flicker of mental resonance. He raised a hand. And the leaf before him lifted. It hovered, slow and shaking. Then fell. Kai smiled. That night he did not leave the totem circle. Instead he trained. He moved through basic forms, repeating Shadow Fang form step by step, this time not with blade but with mind. He placed a rock at each cardinal point. Stared at the one behind him. Breathed. Pushed. Rolled, barely. But it moved. His second telekinetic action. Later, while eating boiled root and smoked beast meat, he sensed something. A pulse. His ring activated. From its core, an old scroll unsealed itself, unfurling midair. The ink glowed. Mental strength technique, basic tier. Level 1 unlocked. Name thought thread, initiate. Effect. Allows movement of small objects within 1 meter. Conditions. Requires focused stillness. Movement disrupts control. Side effects. Headache, blood pressure instability, mental fatigue. Warning. Further training may induce hallucinations if used recklessly. He nodded. Then reached for the second of 3 pills inside the ring. Crushed it beneath his tongue. The world sharpened instantly, colors more vivid, breath slower, heartbeat calm. He focused on 3 rocks this time. Lifted 1. Then 2. The third wobbled. Then all 3 dropped. He collapsed backward, gasping, eyes bleeding faint red. He laughed. I'll get there. As he slept that night, the forest whispered no more. Not in fear. In recognition. The sky cracked with lightning but no thunder followed. Kai stood on the edge of a ridge, hood pulled low as the storm rolled in from the north. Rain had not yet fallen, but the wind carried the scent of charged stone and distant ozone. Below him, nestled between 2 jutting cliffs, was the shrine. Half of it had been buried by time. The other half had been claimed by the wild, vines like veins wrapped around pillars, creeping up through cracked tile and broken statues. Moss blanketed shattered steps. The trees grew thicker as the path descended, forming a twisted canopy that blocked the sky. But the shrine pulsed. Not with life, but with memory. Kai took a step forward. The spiritual ring on his hand pulsed in answer. He made his way down the broken path, careful not to disturb anything. There were no birds. No insects. Not even wind. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was expectant. He crossed the shrine's threshold. The air changed instantly. His breath shortened. His thoughts sharpened. And every sound, his heartbeat, his footfalls, the scrape of leather, grew loud in his skull. At the center of the ruined structure was a platform of worn stone, etched with old spiral runes. Dust hung in the air. At its center sat a single figure, statue or corpse, it was hard to tell. It wore a hood. Its hands rested on its knees. Around its shoulders were 36 metallic shards, frozen mid-air. They did not move even as wind brushed past. Kai's heart stopped. They were flying knives. Like the ones in his ring. He stepped closer. The figure's face was blank, eroded by time, but its presence still remained. There was a test here. He could feel it. The same pressure that had forced him to kneel back at the first shrine returned, stronger now, sharper. He walked to the edge of the platform. Knelt. Bowed. And whispered, I seek the strength to protect. The ring pulsed once. Then again. And the knives above the figure began to spin. A voice echoed, not aloud but within. You who walk the path unseen. You who feel before you strike. You who burn from within. Step forward. Face your reflection. The world spun. Kai's eyes opened to a dim chamber. Stone walls closed around him. He stood within a circle of light. Across from him stood a boy. His own age. His own height. His face. But there was no kindness in those eyes. No calm. Only contempt. Kai understood. This was his mirror. The other Kai spoke first. Why are you pretending? He asked, voice calm and cruel. Kai didn't answer. You think training makes you worthy? You think bleeding alone in the dirt will make people forget where you came from? Kai clenched his fists. Every step you take, the mirror said, you carry fear with you. Fear that you're not enough. Fear that without Mrs. Lan, without Zhao, without help, you're still nothing. Kai stepped forward. I walk forward because I remember. The mirror laughed. No. You walk because you're scared to stop. Then I'll be scared, Kai said. But I'll keep walking anyway. The knives appeared above him, 6 of them. Spinning slowly. He extended his hand. The mirror charged. What followed was not a battle of blades. It was a battle of intention. Kai's mind strained. Each movement of the flying knives was like holding up the sky. The mirror fought with raw power, uncontrolled, wild. Kai fought with breath, with timing, with clarity. One knife struck, then another. Then the mirror faltered just slightly. And that was enough. Kai stepped forward and drove his mental will into the mirrored self, commanding all 6 blades to form a wall between them, and then thrust outward. The mirror cracked, faded, and vanished. Kai collapsed, breathing hard, hands trembling. But the pressure in the room lifted. And the true shrine, the ancient shrine, accepted him. The 36 knives above the old figure floated forward, and vanished into the ring on Kai's finger. A scroll appeared in his lap. He opened it with shaking fingers. Vault scroll unlocked, flying knives formation. Technique, silent Fong pattern. Tier, rare martial/will hybrid. Effect, 6 knife synchronous attack formation. Defensive plus offensive rotations. Requirement, mental strength level 2. Warning, risk of feedback injury if mental pressure drops mid-technique. He stared at the scroll. A single tear slid down his cheek. Not from sorrow, but from something else. He wasn't being trained. He was being forged. He stayed at the shrine for 2 more nights, engraving the 6-blade pattern into the ground and practicing the technique until his nose bled and the knives refused to hover any longer. Only then, when he could control 6 knives for 12 seconds, did he leave. And as he walked away, he didn't look back. But behind him the statue shifted, just slightly. The cracked stone lips curled upward, into the hint of a smile. The first morning after leaving the buried shrine was cold, but Kai didn't feel it. The warmth from the spiritual ring had changed, not just in temperature but in tone. It no longer pulsed randomly. It now beat with rhythm, like a second heart attuned to his thoughts. He set up camp near a small ravine with clean running water. Behind him stood a jagged rock face shaped like a crescent, which offered cover from the wind and elevation over the surrounding woodlands. It was the perfect training ground. He sat cross-legged on a blanket of dried leaves, the mental strength cultivation scroll unrolled across his lap. The ink shimmered faintly, alive with runes that shifted when he blinked. The introduction was simple, almost blunt. Power of the mind is not granted. It is endured. Control is not talent. It is recovery. Kai read the first passage a dozen times. Then he began. The initial exercise was described as thread breathing, a method of synchronizing thought, breath, and muscle to awaken mental perception. He exhaled slowly, closed his eyes, and focused. At first nothing happened. Then noise. Too much noise. The wind. The heartbeat. His own thoughts, louder, messier. Memories of battle. Pain. Regret. The orphanage fire. Faces he missed. He tried to silence it. The scroll had warned. You cannot silence the mind. Only listen to it until it breaks against your focus. So he did. For the next hour he remained still. Sweat rolled down his back. Not from heat, but strain. He could feel pressure building in his skull, like an itch under the bone. Then, crack. His vision blurred. Blood trickled from his nose. He collapsed sideways, gasping. He awoke at dusk, dizzy and disoriented. His head pounded. His lips were dry. The ring's glow had dimmed, but he could still feel the knives within it, waiting. Too early for formations. He sat up slowly and drank from his water skin, letting the cold water shock him back to focus. His instincts screamed that he should stop, but his soul told him to keep going. That night he meditated again. This time shorter. This time clearer. And as he focused on a single rock in front of him, a flat, smooth pebble, he imagined it rising. He imagined it not as an object but as an extension of himself. And it shuddered. Only for a moment. But it happened. His eyes opened. A small smile played on his lips. The next day was pain. He practiced for hours, pushing further than he should have. He tried 2 rocks. 3. Blood again. From his ears this time. But on the 4th night, under a pale moon, the rocks lifted. All 3. Wobbly. Imperfect. But they rose. And for 10 whole seconds they hovered. A pulse went through his system. Mental strength, level 1 achieved. Resonance, 7%. Abilities unlocked. Thread pull micro. Enhanced threat perception passive. Minor mental defense, plus 5%. Side effect, severe exhaustion upon overuse. Kai leaned back against a tree, panting. His mind felt like it had been wrung dry. But he laughed anyway. Quiet. Tired. But real. By the end of the week, Kai had woven mental strength training into his daily life. Each morning began with thread breathing, followed by slow-motion combat drills. First with no weapons, then with the blade, and eventually with one flying knife hovering beside him. The goal wasn't power. It was flow. He used his mental thread to shift the knife's orientation as he moved, horizontal, vertical, spinning, until it became a part of his rhythm. Each time his focus shortened. 30 seconds, 20 seconds, 15. Then headaches. But he never stopped. Later that week he sensed a creature near his camp. He followed the trail cautiously, soft tracks near the stream, blood in the leaves. He found it tangled in brambles, a glassjaw puma, wounded and snarling. It turned toward him. Not wounded. Faking. It lunged. Kai didn't run. He didn't draw his sword. Instead he raised his hand. And with every ounce of control he summoned his thread. The knife inside the ring shimmered, appeared beside him. Spinning. Fast. The puma leapt. The knife struck its eye mid-air. Kai rolled, summoned the knife back, and used thread pull to drive it down again into the beast's neck. The creature thrashed. Then stilled. He collapsed afterward, vision flickering. He had gone too far. But he'd won. Without lifting his sword. Mental resonance increased to 10%. Warning: progression to level 2 requires significant rest and emotional grounding. He returned to camp with blood on his cloak and pain in his joints. But something had changed. His reflexes were sharper. His balance more centered. His breathing deeper. And when he closed his eyes, the knives answered more easily. Only one hovered now, but it did so without shaking. He was no longer trying to control it. He was bonded to it. He named it Echo. Pain had a rhythm. Kai lay on the forest floor beneath a blanket of branches and shadow, clutching the side of his head. It throbbed not like an injury but like something inside was expanding, too quickly, too recklessly. His breath came in ragged gasps. The first attempt at thread breathing had gone well enough. But the second? That was where the real struggle began. Mental strength wasn't cultivated like physical power. There were no muscles to train, no spirit paths to widen. It didn't flow. It pressed. It demanded clarity in chaos, stillness amid storms, complete calm in the face of 1,000 screaming thoughts. And Kai, scarred, angry, restless Kai, was anything but calm. He had underestimated it. And now he was paying for it. His skull burned. Not metaphorically. His system warning pulsed red. Mental overload detected. Symptoms: light hallucinations, cranial strain, disrupted equilibrium. Recommended action: cease mental focus. Rest. Reset. But Kai didn't stop. He couldn't. Not when the rock had shivered. Not when the voice inside the shrine had whispered. Only the brave step past the mind. Night fell in swathes of silver and gray. His campfire burned low. Kai sat in silence, legs crossed, fists trembling against his knees. He tried again. Thread breathing. Inhale slow. Exhale slower. He let every thought rise. Then fall. Let fear speak. Then fade. Let the echoes come and pass. And somewhere between pain and peace, the world softened. He saw a memory. Not a vision. The truth. He was 10, fighting 2 older boys for a piece of dried fish. They knocked him down. Called him Rat Orphan. Kicked him. He didn't fight back. Not that time. But he remembered. Every blow. Every sound. Every breath between punches. And when the matron arrived, scolding the boys and dragging them off, he had sat there, hands bloody, memorizing the moment. He hadn't cried. He'd just sworn, quietly, never to be the one lying on the floor again. His eyes opened. The pain was still there, but it was focused now. Directed. Like a rope pulled tight, not fraying threads. And the rock in front of him? It rose. Shaking. Wavering. But it rose. Kai smiled through bloodied lips. The next morning he could barely stand. His legs were numb. His back was tight. But he felt different. He moved slower. Thought clearer. Even sounds, the wind through trees, the rustle of his cloak, felt more defined, more alive. He made tea using boiled root and crisp leaf bark, chewing the leaves for energy. Then he set a new goal. Move 2 rocks. Then 3. He tried. Failed. Tried again. Collapsed. But by nightfall both rocks had floated. For 10 full seconds. That night he lay on his back, staring at the stars. The wind whispered through the trees like a lullaby. His thoughts didn't race. For the first time in his life, they flowed. The next day it happened. A tremor passed through his body as he focused, not of pain but of awakening. His mind didn't strain. It stretched. And when the rock rose again it did not fall. 3 more followed. Then the scroll inside the spiritual ring burned gold. And the system flared. Mental strength, level 1 achieved. Current resonance, 7%. New skills unlocked. Thread pull, micro can manipulate small objects within 0.5 meters. Enhanced threat perception, passive improved danger awareness, especially to surprise attacks. Mental defense plus 5%. Mild resistance to illusions, fear auras and mind-affecting techniques. Side effect. Mental fatigue after extended use. Kai grinned. He stood slowly, flexing his fingers. Finally, he said aloud. Then, without thinking, he looked at a small stone and flicked his hand. It rose and zipped forward, striking a tree trunk dead center. He blinked. A new prompt appeared. Thread flick, micro-control achieved. Precision 18%. Speed 9%. Control time 2.3 seconds. His hand trembled. He wiped blood from his nose and smiled anyway. I'll take it. The forest was never still. Even when the trees stood quiet and the wind held its breath, something always stirred. A twitch in the underbrush. The snap of a twig. The hush of hidden breath behind bark or stone. Kai had learned to listen for it. To feel it. The morning after his breakthrough into mental strength level 1, the forest sounded different. Sharper. More detailed. Like someone had peeled back the world's surface and let him hear the gears turning underneath. His footfalls were quieter now. His balance more refined. Even his heartbeat, once a drum of chaos, had softened into a steady rhythm, controlled and calm. He moved through the mist like a shadow. At his side, floating at shoulder height, was a single flying knife. The one he had named Echo. It hovered, unwavering, spinning slowly when his mind focused on it, tilting gently when he blinked. Not by force, but by intent. They were connected now. Not fully. Not perfectly. But enough. Kai's morning routine had changed. He no longer practiced only sword forms or footwork. Now he ran drills while controlling Echo, threading it through narrow branches, around boulders, between trees, and across his own shoulders without letting it graze his skin. Each time he lost focus, the knife would wobble or fall. Each time he would stop, breathe, and try again. By midday he could hold Echo stable while sprinting. By evening he could use it to slice leaves in midair as they fell. It took all of his focus. Even a flicker of doubt would make the knife spin out of control. But it was happening. He was learning. That night, as the sun dipped low behind the treeline, Kai sensed danger. Not with his eyes or ears, but with something deeper. A tightness in his ribs. A tension in the air. He turned slowly. Behind him, 20 meters away, a predator crept from the underbrush. A glassjaw puma. Sleek, gray-furred, with translucent fangs and silent steps. Its muscles rippled under its coat as it stalked him, eyes glowing faintly with corrupted spirit energy. It was hungry. Kai didn't flinch. He didn't reach for his sword. Instead, he raised one hand. An echo spun to life. The blade hovered beside him, angled slightly toward the beast. His thoughts went still. The knife gleamed. The puma growled, low and deliberate. Then it lunged. Time slowed. Kai felt the wind shift. Felt the pressure of impact a second before it came. His focus sharpened. He willed Echo forward, hard. The knife screamed through the air and struck the puma's flank mid-leap, slicing across its shoulder. It didn't stop the beast, but it staggered it. Kai dove to the side, rolled, and turned with both hands out. Echo spun back toward him. He caught it mentally, barely, and redirected. The knife arced. Hit the beast's rear leg. Blood spurted. The puma turned sharply and lunged again. Kai raised his hand. Called the knife. Too slow. The beast reached him. Claws raked his side. Pain flared. But he didn't lose focus. He rolled under the beast and sent Echo forward again. This time he aimed for the throat. And landed the strike. The blade pierced deep. The puma jerked. Twitched. Collapsed. So. Kai lay on his back, chest heaving, blood seeping from the tear in his tunic. He looked at the corpse. Then at the blade. It floated gently back to his side. He smiled. Then passed out. He awoke an hour later, bruised but alive. He dressed the wound. Ate cold jerky. Drank from the stream. Then he summoned Echo again. Held it steady. And whispered, "Good work." The blade tilted slightly. Almost in acknowledgement. Mental resonance increased to 12%. Thread control duration, 14.2 seconds. New technique imprinted. Thread arc slash. Command blade to strike in curved angle around obstacles. Range 2 meters. Control stability, 62%. Kai wrote it all in his journal. Every struggle, every mistake. He wanted to remember the pain, the progress. Because one day someone would ask where his strength came from. And he would say, from bleeding into the earth and learning to breathe anyway. 2 days passed in silence. Kai used the time to heal, to sharpen, to grow steadier. The wound from the glassjaw puma still ached, a long gash across his ribs, but it no longer bled. He had boiled wild moss for paste, wrapped the injury tightly and returned to slow training. Echo now responded to him like an extension of his hand. He could spin it, hover it, even strike once with minor course correction. But beyond that, the strain was still brutal. His brain turned to iron if he pushed beyond a dozen seconds. Every headache told him, you're not ready. But something in him, perhaps pride, perhaps instinct, disagreed. You're not done. So he turned his attention to the thing he'd avoided since the shrine. The locked weapon case stored inside the ring. It had hovered in his mental inventory for days, glowing with faint traces of old power. He called it forth. The box appeared on the mossy earth before him with a dull thump. Blackwood. Iron banded. Faint runes. 36 tiny slots lined the inside, each etched with a name he couldn't read, but understood. His fingertips brushed the lid. The lock required mental resonance. He closed his eyes, focused his thoughts, and pressed his mind into the seal. A wave of resistance met him, like ice against his skin. But he pushed harder. Let his breath flow. Let his thoughts narrow to a point. The seal cracked, and the lid opened. Inside 35 knives. Each one different in shape, size, and edge. Echo floated out of his ring and took its place in the empty slot near the center. The set was whole again. But only one was awake. Kai spent an entire morning memorizing the layout. Each knife had a name, not spoken but felt. Whisper. Bell. Ember. Fong. Ace. Thorn. Coil. Trace. The list went on. But they remained dormant, locked, until they were bound. He tested his mental thread with each. The second knife responded, barely. The third? Not at all. He took the second one. Fong. It was serrated, slightly curved, heavier than Echo. He meditated with it. Held it in the air for 6 seconds before it dropped. His nose bled again. That night he didn't summon Echo. He only worked with Fong. Each failure taught him more than a clean success. By the 5th night, Fong hovered steadily. Kai smiled. Then passed out. Mental resonance, 14%. Second knife bonded, Fong. Stability, 71%/thread response, moderate. The next day he summoned both knives at once. The world shifted instantly. Bang. Pressure. His ears rang. His vision dimmed. He dropped to one knee. The knives hovered. Wobbled. He pushed harder. Felt the ring buzz. The knives stabilized. He moved through a slow rotation, letting the blades orbit his shoulders. Sweat poured from his brow. His limbs trembled. He kept going. 9 seconds. 12. 15. They fell. He gasped for air. Then laughed. 2 became 3. Then 4. Over days. Each new knife brought more resistance. More risk. But also, more precision. His techniques changed. His movement shifted. He didn't fight like a sword master anymore. He fought like something else. Something no one had trained for. By the 9th day, Kai had bonded with 4 knives. He could float them all at once for short bursts, circling above his head, rotating in slow arcs, hovering in tight defense patterns. But the pressure on his mind was mounting. For each new blade, the thread split. For each thread, his focus divided. Even a blink in the wrong moment caused collapse. Still he pressed on. He wasn't just learning how to wield blades. He was learning how to breathe while holding them. How to think while moving them. How to fight while commanding them. The scroll inside the ring had warned him. 1 threat, sharp. 2, bent. 3, tangled. 4, cut. 5, bled. 6, yours. He bonded the 5th knife on the 11th day. Its name was Trace. Thin. Needle-like. Fastest of the set. But hardest to maintain. When he first summoned all 5 blades, Echo, Fong, Haze, Thorn, and Trace, the feedback nearly ruptured a blood vessel in his left eye. He collapsed mid-exercise, rolled into the brush, and vomited from the pressure. His vision spun for hours. He didn't try again until morning. But by the 12th day he could hold 5. Barely. Echo and Fong formed a front guard. Haze and Thorn orbited the flanks. Trace floated behind him, ready to launch forward. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. 14 seconds. Then he bled from both nostrils and had to lie down before his brain split open. Still it worked. That night the storm came. Winds howled through the trees. Rain hammered the ground. Thunder cracked so loud it shook the roots. Kai didn't seek shelter. He stood in the storm. Blades floating. Eyes open. Focus taut. The knives spun around him, 5 now 6. The final one, Ember, ignited when summoned. A faint orange trail followed it as it orbited. The 6-knife ring was unstable. It tugged at his thoughts, threatened to rip his focus apart. The rain blurred his vision. The wind pulled at his arms. But he kept them steady. Echo, Fong, Thorn, Ace, Trace, Ember. A full ring. For 7 seconds. 8, 9, 10. Crack. Blood sprayed from his ears. The knives fell. His body crumpled. He woke 3 hours later under a broken tree limb, mouth filled with mud, head pounding like thunder. He couldn't hear clearly. His thoughts were slow, slurred. But in his palm one blade lay still, Ember. Waiting. Not mocking. Waiting. He had held 6. And the system had seen it. Mental resonance 18%. 6-knife stability, record 10.6 seconds. Warning, pushing further may cause permanent damage. Mental strength level, still at level 1. Progress to level 2, 61%, major test or insight required. Kai smiled through cracked lips. Not yet, he whispered. But soon. The forest was still dripping from the night storm when Kai woke beneath the shattered limb. His body ached. His temples throbbed. His clothes were soaked and clung to his skin like second flesh. But when he sat up, slow, deliberate, he did not feel weak. He felt ready. His hands trembled as he reached into the ring and summoned all 6 knives. They hovered at varying distances, scattered in a loose arc around him. Their presence felt heavy, not in weight but in demand. Each knife asked for something. Fong asked for will. Trace asked for speed. Haze asked for clarity. Thorn asked for restraint. Ember asked for balance. And Echo asked for everything. He took a breath. Then opened the second scroll, hidden beneath the knife case inside the ring. The script shimmered. Formation style, a circle of the falling leaves. Tier rare. Design, 6-blade circular sequence. Function, rotating offense and responsive defense. Requirement, mental strength level 1. Notes, movement must flow with thought. Interruptions cause collapse. The scroll continued with diagrams, rotating patterns, shift angles, threading commands. There was no technique to shout. No position to hold. It was pure mental weaving. 6 knives circling in rhythm with the mind's pulse. Kai inhaled deeply. And began. The first attempt lasted 3 seconds. Too fast. The knives collided mid-spin. The second? 5 seconds. Trace veered off course and embedded itself into a tree. The third? They circled. Slow. Controlled. Kai rotated his body with them, small steps, shoulders relaxed, arms loose. The blades moved like leaves caught in a current. Not spinning wildly, but drifting in purpose. Each with a place. Each with a breath. 7 seconds. 8. 9. Then Ember jerked. Too fast. Kai lost focus. The ring collapsed. Knives scattered. He dropped to a knee, gasping. He tried again. Again. And again. The forest watched silently. By nightfall, he had stabilized the formation 12 separate times, each slightly better than the last. His longest hold, 13 seconds. The pain was ever present. Blood crusted at his temples. His left eye twitched when he overextended. But the formation was forming. And then, the beast came. A mist-claw panther, black-furred and twice the size of the glossjaw puma, stepped into the clearing without a sound. Its paws made no prints. Its breath formed no cloud. Only its eyes, glowing green, gave it away. Kai stood slowly. The knives rose. The formation began. The panther charged. What followed was a blur of motion and breath. Kai didn't think. He reacted. Each paw swipe was met with a blade. Not blocked. Redirected. The panther darted left. Trace spun behind it. The beast leapt. Thorn rose like a fawn. The knives rotated around Kai, protecting, harassing, driving the enemy into patterns it couldn't escape. Then he gave the final command. Collapse inward. The 6 knives contracted. And struck. The panther dropped mid-leap, falling into the mud with a silent thud. Dead. Kai exhaled. The knives hovered. Then returned, hovering slowly behind him like sentinels. System update. Formation mastery. Circle of the falling leaves, 42% stability. Knife count, 6 active/30 dormant. Mental resonance, 21%. Breakthrough progress to level 2, 74%. That night, Kai sat in the stillness of the clearing, watching fireflies dance between trees. 6 blades hovered around him. Not as weapons, but as extensions of his will. He was no longer controlling them. He was breathing with them,